Everyone thought he was a joke. They mocked him for choosing the Gunslinger, a class the entire server considered the absolute worst trash in the game. Little did they know, he held a legendary class in his hands, but none of that mattered yet, because before his awakening, his previous life was nothing but a burning pile of garbage. Louis had watched helplessly as his sister was wiped from existence right before his eyes. The thugs glared down at him, tossing his sister's lifeless body to the dirt. He couldn't even stand, he just wept. Then, cold steel pierced his back. They cackled, kicking both him and his dying sister, spitting the word weaklings at them. Louis gasped for air, drowning in the regret of a wasted life. All he had ever wanted was to keep her safe. He never guessed that Yuan World wouldn't stay a game, that the nightmare would merge with reality, granting every player their in-game powers. He hadn't played much, leaving him stuck in a fragile body, but inside he was a beast driven by pure rage. No way would he let these scumbags laugh at his sister's murder. Screaming like a demon, Louis forced himself up and drove the sword straight into the killer's skull. He collapsed, finally finding peace in death. But the end was just the beginning. He snapped his eyes open, back in his bed, exactly 3 years before the apocalypse. Louis bolted upright, mind racing. He could still feel the phantom pain of being butchered. He scanned the room, disoriented, until it clicked. This was his old apartment, the one he lived in 3 years ago. The door creaked open, and a familiar female voice cut through the silence. Louis froze. He couldn't trust his own eyes. Standing in the hallway was his sister, alive and well, clutching the login box for the game, Yuan World. Voice trembling. He asked the date. Liu Yun, confused by his intensity, teased him about waking up on the wrong side of the bed. "It's 2030. She laughed. The words hit him like a truck. Louis stood paralyzed, struggling to process the impossible. He scrambled out of bed and rushed to the window, jaw dropping. He realized the truth. He was back on the very day Yuan World launched. Without a second thought, he crushed his sister in a desperate hug, swearing a silent oath this time. Nobody dies. He would become the apex predator, assuming this wasn't just a cruel dream. July 27th, 2030. The day the VR game launched. By September 1st, it would seize control of the planet. Gamers would inherit their avatar's skills. The outcast and the downtrodden would suddenly wield godlike power. For the first time, the weak tasted strength they never dreamed existed. Society collapsed instantly. The world devolved into an endless bloodbath for wealth and dominion. Originally, Louis played as a casual explorer. That choice sealed his fate. Low level meant zero survival chance when the game turned real. But fate handed him a miracle, a 1 in a billion second chance. Reborn 3 years in the past, right at the starting line, no more casual play. He was determined to become the strongest being alive. He snapped back to reality when his sister shoved him off. He hadn't realized he was still squeezing the life out of her. She turned bright red, thinking her brother was just pulling some weird prank. He scratched his head, grinning awkwardly to play it off. Fast forward 8 hours, launch time. Louis strapped on the virtual reality headset and settled into bed. 34 days. That's all he had before the game swallowed the world. To save his sister, he had to conquer the leaderboards. He logged in, materializing in the rookie plaza alongside a swarm of other players. Center stage, an admin prepared to showcase the core mechanic Force. The first strike was sloppy, a basic chop that only made it halfway through a massive boulder. Then, the admin focused his energy. One fluid motion later, the rock split cleanly in two like hot butter. Louis watched, jaw on the floor. That was true power. Tutorial over. The system warped him into the game proper. Fresh spawns looked around, mesmerized by the graphics. But Louis had tunnel vision. He needed to level up, and he needed to do it now. He dumped everything into the strength ability. It was the enigmatic stat that separated the casuals from the true warlords. Wasting 0 seconds, he sprinted for the training pavilion. Yuan World didn't lock you into combat classes. You were defined by the weapon you held. Louis knew the meta. Mastery was everything. He needed to become one with a weapon immediately. 100% proficiency meant total dominance over the strength ability. Fueled by panic and determination, he rushed the weapons pavilion. He dreaded the thought of a crowd. If the training areas were packed, he was in trouble. But to his shock, The hall was deserted. Liu Yi didn't question his luck. It was time to grind. He heads straight for the weapon rack, eyes locking onto his target. The katana is his blade of choice, the natural starting point for his ascent. But favoritism has no place here. He must conquer the entire arsenal. 5 grueling hours of training later, his body is screaming for mercy. Yet, he pushes through, achieving absolute mastery over the katana and cementing it as his primary instrument of war. Exhaustion claws at him, but time is a luxury he cannot afford. Without a second thought, he seizes a long sword and dives back into the grinder, pushing his limits past the breaking point. Meanwhile, a couple wanders into the weapons pavilion, soaking in the atmosphere. They stroll through the corridors, marveling at the hyper-realistic details, until the girl notices something tucked away a training hall looming behind her partner. The rhythmic sounds of steel on wood pique her curiosity. What could possibly be in there? She wonders aloud. The guy glances at the sign overhead and shrugs. Looks like just a training zone, he mutters, unimpressed. Curiosity gets the better of her. She peeks around the corner and finds our protagonist, a lone wolf relentlessly hammering a wooden dummy, honing his strikes with terrifying focus. It strikes her as odd Liu Ya is the only soul in the entire facility actually training. Intrigued, the pair drift toward the racks, though their hands remain empty. They watch for a moment, trying to grasp the mechanics, before tossing the weapons aside in disgust. Boring, they scoff, a waste of time for total losers. On their way out, the guy drops some lore. The pavilion offers 0 perks beyond simple weapon proficiency, no experience, no loot. He adds a grim detail: reaching 100% mastery demands a staggering 10,000 strikes. Let's bail, the girl urges. We should be out there leveling up, not watching paint dry. Her partner nods, ready to bolt. But before they vanish, the girl casts one final look back at Liu Ya. Something about his intensity sears itself into her memory. As for Liu Ya, he doesn't even know they exist. He is a machine, striking without pause. By day 1, the katana and halberd are mastered, yet the special ability he craves remains out of reach. Day 2 brings the spear, axe, shield, and hammer under his absolute command. Still, his dormant power refuses to awaken. By day 3, while the masses race to levels 10 and 20, Liu Ya remains stuck at level 1, his true strength locked away. Doubt flickers for a split second. Should he stop? Should he chase levels like the rest? No, he crushes that thought instantly. To stand at the apex, he needs that ability. No matter the cost, nothing will derail him. Cut to the streets outside, where reality is shifting. That same couple strolls by, grimly discussing a recent player death. The penalty in Yuan World is unforgiving die, and you lose every scrap of experience levels you have earned. Mid-conversation, the girl spots Liu Ya again. Her jaw drops. He is still at it. Even her boyfriend looks rattled. There are a million better ways to play this game. He scoffs, spending days hitting a dummy. That's insanity. The girl is baffled by Liu Ya's stubbornness, while her partner wonders aloud if maybe, just maybe, the grinder knows a secret they don't. For a second, the guy considers picking up a weapon himself. The girl shuts him down cold. It's pointless. She insists. Look at him. 3 days of sweating blood, and nothing has changed him. Everyone else is hitting level 20. He's just playing with swords. In a real fight, he wouldn't stand a ghost of a chance. Liu Ya is deaf to their noise. He has a mission, and distractions are for the weak. His obsession starts to annoy the girl. She labels him a gaming addict, swearing that even if he became the strongest fighter alive, she wouldn't waste a second on weapon training. To her, the only metric that matters is level, and he is failing. Fed up, she yanks her boyfriend away. Come on, she snaps. We need experience points, not a show. Days bleed into one another until, finally, a notification shatters the monotony. 18 weapons mastered. The system acknowledges his grind, bestowing the title Weapon Master. Now mastering the traits of all 17 weapons through a single armament, he stood frozen, a whip dangling from his exhausted grip as the system message seared into his vision. His mind raced, struggling to comprehend the anomaly unfolding before him. He has conquered every melee weapon in existence, yet the specific ability he hunted is nowhere to be found. Fine. If blades won't work, he'll change tactics. Perhaps his destiny lies in ballistics. He abandons the steel and marches straight for the firearms pavilion. A thought nags him as he walks in his past life. Not a single soul ever wielded a power related to guns. He pushes through those doors, revealing a cavernous, high-tech hall. Endless rows of firearms line the metal racks. Liu Ya doesn't hesitate. He grabs a pistol, ready to start the cycle anew. More than 5 days have vanished since he began. By now, the rest of the world must have crossed the level 30 threshold. Meanwhile, stuck at level 1, Liu Ya stared at the endless arsenal before him, a suffocating weight pressing on his chest. The sheer volume of choices was overwhelming. At this rate, Yuan World would conquer reality before he mastered a single one. Doubt crept in. Was this futile then? The memory hit him. His sister's death, crashing back with devastating force. That level 20 player who slaughtered her. Rage boiled in his veins. There was no choice, no turning back. Without power, he would never reach the top. He took a steady breath, raised the pistol, and began the grind. Even if destiny demanded his death a second time, he would never yield. Meanwhile, back at the pavilion, the girl who had previously mocked Liu Ya's obsession decided to circle back and check his progress. But the room was empty. Surprised, she assumed he had finally quit. Then, bang! A deafening shot rang out. The thunderous crack froze her in her tracks. What the hell was that? Instinct took over. She raced up the stairs to the firearms range, peeked around the door frame, and stopped dead. Dumbfounded. Liu Ya stood motionless, the shooting over. The target wasn't just hit, it was completely obliterated. A strange, verdant aura flickered around him, warping the air as if his very existence was shifting. The girl clamped a hand over her mouth to stifle a scream. Her eyes widened in pure horror. What was happening to him, Liu Ya, however, stood paralyzed. He stared into nothingness, lost in the void. But in reality, his eyes were locked on the notification he had been desperate to see. The system prompt flashed, "Congratulations, you have reached 100% mastery with the pistol. Reward new ability acquired." A shiver raced down Liu Ya's spine. Finally, the power was his. For the first time, he felt ready for the coming apocalypse. A faint, dark chuckle escaped his lips. The path was clear. Level up, catch up. He checked his stats. Strength, 5. Agility, 5. Endurance, 5. Intelligence, 5. Senses, 5. Basic across the board. The only outlier was special resistance. Sitting at a measly 1 point, a new passive skill icon had appeared, though it remained blank. Enough looking. Liu Ya headed for the exit, ready to grind. But as he reached the door, he spotted the girl lurking in the hallway. She panicked, looking away and whistling a clumsy tune, desperately pretending she hadn't seen a thing. Liu Ya didn't waste a second analyzing her. He simply walked right past, as if she were a ghost. Embarrassment flushed through her, followed by a sharp wave of irritation. Why was she so flustered? She wanted to demand answers. What happened in there? What was that aura? But the words died in her throat. She stayed silent. Meanwhile, stepping out of the pavilion, Liu Ya had a revelation. True power only came from a weapon perfectly suited to its wielder. Destination set the equipment shop. He needed a pistol, ammo, and something for close quarters. On the way, whispers about Yuan World drifted through the crowd. The headline, the game had just hit 10 million concurrent players. It confirmed his fears. Time was running out. Arriving at the shop, Liu Ya scanned the wares. He picked up a low-level pistol, the White Dragon, price 500 coins. He added a box of 300 common bullets for 300 coins and a cheap dagger for 200. Total damage, 1,000 coins. Walking out, a heavy sense of discouragement settled over him. Prices were extortionate, and since in-game currency matched real-world value, every purchase stung. The Yuan World developers were clearly greedy, but at least he had tools to work with. Glancing at the dagger, a thought sparked. He didn't hesitate. Activate Special Skill Weapons Master. This was the game changer, a skill that broke weapon limitations, fusing the power of one into another. Time for a field test. Liu Ya headed straight for the Mirror Kingdom gaming facility. Here, players fought their own mirrored reflections. The rules were simple. Defeat your doppelganger, win gold and XP, but entry came with 2 strict conditions. You had to be at least 5 levels lower than the copy you challenged, and pay 10% of your total gold just to enter. For Liu Ya, this wasn't an obstacle. It was the perfect hunting ground. He was only level 1 on paper, but he held the power of a master. As he strode through the hall, a cry of sheer frustration pierced the air. 2 players materialized at the respawn point, bitching about the insane difficulty of the mirrors. By the looks of it, they had just lost everything. Nearby, a pair of players watched the scene, their eyes dripping with irony. They spent a moment mocking the losers before shifting their gaze to Liu Ya. One of them spotted a pistol holstered at the boy's waist and let out a sharp, contemptuous laugh. A gun. In this game, that was arguably the worst weapon choice possible. The other guy sneered, immediately pegging Liu Ya as a clueless rookie. Ignoring the fact that they thought he was delusional for bringing such inferior gear, Liu Ya stayed silent, simply studying the crowd. They had no clue what he was actually capable of. Liu Ya locked in his decision and mentally braced himself for his debut in the Mirror Kingdom. He knew the score. With 0 experience under his belt, the odds were stacked heavily against him. But he also knew there was no running away. He pulled up the system menu, quickly familiarizing himself with the interface layout. A quick scroll later, a window popped up, confirmed battle against a mirror player. Fear tightened his chest, but Liu Ya didn't flinch. He hit confirm. The system wasn't done. It flashed a notification demanding the 100 coin participation fee. He accepted. Immediately, a grim warning appeared. Once inside the Mirror Kingdom, there is no exit until the battle ends. A heartbeat later, reality shifted. Liu Ya stood in the arena, his opponent already poised for combat. The countdown started. 10 seconds. As the clock ticked down to the 5-second mark, Liu Ya's nerves shattered. He had never fought anyone of his own free will. The terror of impending violence washed over him like a tidal wave. His legs started twitching involuntarily. Desperate to ground himself, he tapped his foot, trying to shake off the panic. Fatal mistake. The distraction cost him the initiative. The timer hit 0, and his opponent wielding a crimson sword lunged instantly. It's over, Liu Ya thought. I'm dead. Miraculously, he dodged the first slash. He tried to fire back, but panic ruined his aim. Every shot went wide. He stumbled, nearly face-planting into the dirt. The enemy didn't hesitate. Seizing the opening, he disarmed Liu Ya with a brutal, efficient strike. Weapon gone. Now, it was just Liu Ya, unarmed and exposed, staring down that red blade. The swordsman smirked, certain of the kill, but in that split second of hesitation, something snapped inside Liu Ya. He couldn't quit. He had been given a second life, and he wasn't going to throw it away. He triggered his master archer skill, modifying the very properties of the blade coming at him. Energy surged. Liu Ya caught the sword strike, blocking it with a raw power that shouldn't have been possible. The enhanced durability of the blade worked in his favor, fueling a counterattack with strength he didn't even know he possessed. With surgical precision, he snapped the enemy's sword in half, rendering it useless, and finished the fight in a blink. Victory was his, but the adrenaline dump was brutal. His hands shook violently, and his breath hitched a physiological reaction he couldn't suppress. Frustration boiled up. He won, so why couldn't he calm down? Meanwhile, moments earlier, 2 other players strolled through the arena, strategizing about gathering members for their teams. They were griping about the grind. Winning in the Mirror Kingdom was hell, especially with the big clans crushing the small fry. But as Liu Ya celebrated his win, the 2 mockers from before were left speechless. Their brains couldn't process it. A level 1 scrub with trash gear just destroyed an opponent 5 levels higher. Turns out, these guys weren't scouts. They were gamblers, looking to make a quick buck betting on the fights. One of them frantically refreshed the backstage garden betting site, eager to see the payout from their wagers. The other one wasn't looking at the money. He was analyzing Liu Ya's movements, trying to figure out how a low-level nobody pulled that off. Inside the arena, Liu Ya watched his opponent's stance closely as the countdown for the next phase continued. The green-haired spectator watched him like a hawk. The answer's right there, he muttered. The second guy nodded. Excellent choice, he agreed, eyes glued to Liu Ya. They were itching to see which mirror copy he challenged next so they could place their bets. Liu Ya checked his stats. He had jumped to level 5, his attributes had doubled. But deep down, he still felt weak. He had to get stronger to kill this fear. If he stopped now, he was dead meat. Fueled by determination, he selected his next nightmare, rank 55, a mirror copy known as Strikes. Flash, the system teleported him instantly. The two gamblers were ready to throw money down, but when they saw the matchup, they froze. Their jaws dropped. Liu Ya hadn't just picked a fight. He chose a level 10 mirror copy named Strikes. The green-haired guy snapped out of his daze. It dawned on him. Out of hundreds of level 10 options, Liu Ya had picked the absolute strongest one. Panic set in. He prayed the system hadn't registered their bet yet, or they were about to lose everything. But the white-haired gambler dropped the bomb. The chips were already down, and there was no turning back now. He was sweating bullets, praying that if they crashed and burned, his green-haired buddy would keep his mouth shut about this humiliation. Then the house posted the odds. The spread between Liu Ya and Strikes was a chasm wide enough to swallow their souls. Over 200,000 credits rode on a victory for Strikes. Hope didn't just fade, it vanished. And right on cue, the champion materialized. Strikes stood there, a juggernaut gripping a gleaming katana, fully decked out in the legendary persistent fighter set. In the other corner, Liu Ya, a measly level 5, held nothing but a pistol and a rusty dagger. As the countdown ticked away, the poor kid's legs began to tremble uncontrollably. Fury boiled within him at his own weakness. Desperate to kill the fear, he drove the dagger deep into his own thigh. Pain brought clarity. With only 2 seconds on the clock, he dropped into a stance, swearing he wouldn't make the same rookie mistakes again. The bell rings and Liu Ya explodes forward, weaving through the air to slip past the opening volley. His pistol roars, but his aim is garbage. Strikes deflects the bullets like they are annoying flies. Strikes doesn't have time for games. In a blur of motion, he slaps the weapons right out of Liu Ya's hands. No hesitation. Strikes wins up for a slash guaranteed to end the match and Liu Ya's life. But surrender isn't in Liu Ya's vocabulary. He triggers his special ability, his eyes igniting with an ethereal blue fire. He launches himself into a desperate forward roll, barely scraping past the edge of death. He skids to a halt, realizing his opponent hasn't pursued. A split second to breathe. He checks his vitals health, sitting at a critical 20 out of 100. Cognitive power at 28 out of 30. The fight is young, but Liu Ya is already staring into the abyss. Survival is the only objective now. His attacks are like throwing pebbles at a tank. He realizes with sinking dread that he's picked a monster he can't hope to kill. He should have hunted rats in the sewers to level up, not jumped into the lion's den this early. Yet, a dark chuckle escapes his lips. The sheer absurdity of the difficulty curve steals his nerves, and he raises his fists once more. To conquer the terror, he has to keep moving. He has to keep fighting until his heart stops. Standing still is a death sentence, so he does the unthinkable. He charges straight down the throat of the beast. At the last possible millisecond, our hero twists his body, evading a strike that would have zeroed out his health bar instantly. But he has severely underestimated the veteran's speed. In a heartbeat, Strikes vanishes and reappears right behind him like a phantom. Checkmate. Realizing he has 0 odds of survival, Liu Ya goes all in. He spins around, levels his pistol, and pulls the trigger blindly. Thunder and steel collide. The katana cleaves Liu Ya cleanly in two, just as the bullet obliterates Strikes' his skull. Silence falls. Then, the system speaks Liu Ya's damage registered microseconds faster. Winner Liu Ya. Jackpot. A massive injection of experience points and cash floods his account. He skyrockets to level 13. Every attribute surges to 17, except for his stubborn endurance, which only ticks up by a single point. He exhales a breath he didn't know he was holding. He had danced with the Reaper and somehow walked away with the prize. Notifications ping like crazy, the most critical one flashing gold level 10 achieved. His innate rebirth ability has evolved. No longer just a passive trait. It now grants him the power to choose his own evolutionary path. Back in the spectator stands, the mood was ugly. The two guys who bet on the underdog were backed against a wall by a mob. It was collection time. One of the losers was practically weeping, begging to keep just half his stash. But the one-eyed thug wasn't hearing it. Pay up or bleed. His expression said, there was no wiggling out of this debt. That's when the white-haired gambler snapped, screaming at the vultures. You morons are celebrating before the whistle even blows. The match isn't over. The thug sneered, pointing at the screen. Strikes is a legend. There's no universe where he loses to a scrub. He was ready to riot if the payout didn't come. In his mind, Strikes was the apex predator of the level 10 bracket. And then, the scoreboard refreshed. The room froze. The name Strikes was grayed out. Defeated. Jaws hit the floor. The mob stared blankly as their fortunes evaporated in the blink of an eye. The green-haired guy lit up like a Christmas tree, grinning from ear to ear. Against all logic, they had struck gold. Meanwhile, the champion Liu Ya stepped out of the virtual arena, a mysterious interface shimmering into existence before him. He stared at the cryptic text, baffled, but swiped it away to finalize the logout sequence. As consciousness returned to the real world, his sister barged in, calling him for dinner, starving. Liu Ya shuffled into the kitchen and shoveled food into his mouth. His sister Yoon chirped about cooking his favorite mushrooms, but Liu Ya was too lost in his own thoughts to hear a single word. He drowned in thoughts of the Yuan World, fixated on two dormant skills he had unwittingly unlocked. First up was Invasion Flame, a nasty little ability with a devastating twist. Sure, the burn damage ticked down from 50 to 25 per second, but the cumulative destruction of massive 250 health points melting away. But firepower wasn't enough. Liu Ya's mind raced to the threats lurking in the shadows. Realizing he couldn't survive alone, he needed a squad. Dinner was a blur. He shoveled down his food, thanked his sister, and vanished into his room, leaving her staring at a barely touched plate. The sight stung her heart. She wondered if her cooking had failed him, or if he was already looking for someone else to care for him. Meanwhile, back in the digital grit of the mirror world, the tables had turned. A desperate gambler groveled at Gang's feet, begging to keep half his stash. But this guy was a hustler. He spun a sob story, claiming the credits he blew betting on Strikes belonged to his family, not him. If he went home empty-handed, he wouldn't just be broke, he'd be dead meat. Gang just sneered. Funny, he scoffed. A minute ago, you spat on my deal, and now you're on your knees begging for it. Before the loser could whimper another word, a blur of red hair slammed Gang's skull against the concrete. The demand was simple: cough up everything won against Strikes. The assailant was Jack, a heavy hitter with a temper to match his reputation. And he wasn't just some thug, he represented the New Order Guild, the Iron Fist ruling the mirror world. Pinned like a bug, Gang stammered excuses. He swore he had nothing to do with the upset, he just placed a bet. How could he know Liu Ya would crush the Strikes clone? Jack didn't blink. Excuses were a currency he didn't accept. The white-haired kid cashed out, and you rode his coattails, Jack hissed. Dodge me here, and we'll settle this in the real world. Your call. Panic set in. Desperate to keep his real life safe from the guild's wrath, Gang folded immediately, offering every credit he had skimmed off the top. But Jack threw a curveball. He sneered, rejected the cash, and kicked the trembling gambler loose. Gang froze, confused and terrified. I don't have anything else to trade, he stammered, his face pale. Jack leaned in, eyes cold as the grave. Keep your money. You're going to do me a favor instead. With a gun to his head, metaphorically speaking, Gang had zero options. He agreed. Meanwhile, our protagonist logged back in, hungry for power. Hesitation was for the dead. Judgment Day was ticking closer, and Liu Ya needed to be a weapon by the time it arrived. A system prompt flashed, confirm upgrade for the Kai heal skill. He smashed the confirm button. Instantly, 3 alerts chimed in rapid succession. First, the skill evolution was locked in. Second, his stats recalculated. His combat power had spiked to a solid 15.6. Finally, a new designation shimmered above his head, the title of low-level warrior. But the real shocker, the upgrade had unlocked a dual attribute, sending his base stats skyrocketing beyond expectations. Liu Ya stared at the numbers in disbelief. He remembered the grind of his past life, how weak he felt even after crossing level 100. This was different. At just level 13, his raw power already rivaled a level 26 veteran from the old timeline. A crazy thought took root. Could he take down a level 20 Strikes clone right now? The doubt vanished. The insecure boy was gone, replaced by a predator ready to hunt. He wasn't just ready, he was eager. Strikes wasn't a monster anymore, he was a measuring stick, a test subject for Liu Ya's new might. The challenge window popped up. Liu Ya didn't blink, except the countdown began. The gears of fate started turning. Instantly, the betting pools went wild. Odds flashed across the local chats, and 2 shills working for Jack started pumping the hype train. One of the plants went rogue, dumping his entire stash on Liu Ya to win, leaving his blonde partner fuming. We're here to rig it, not gamble. But the white-haired bettor just smirked. He knew Jack's hands were tied. The new order wouldn't back him up if things went south, so why not cash in? The blonde realized the play. Jack must have strong-armed his partner into manipulating the odds in the underdog's favor. It was a forced hype job designed to lure in suckers, but it made no sense. Who in their right mind would bet on a nobody like Liu Ya? The payout would be garbage. His partner stayed silent. His job wasn't to think, it was to light the fuse and watch the chaos. Cut to the arena, 10 seconds to showtime. In the red corner Strikes, level 20, dual-wielding katanas and decked out in high-tier armor. In the blue corner, Liu Ya, level 13, a pistol, a dagger, and starter clothes. It looked like a slaughter. But inside Liu Ya's mind, the tactical HUD was already running. With his cognitive surplus, he could see the future one perfect strike to end it all. Fight. The system roared. Liu Ya didn't wait. He launched himself straight into the jaws of death. Strikes is a blur of motion, her dual katanas weaving an impenetrable steel barrier that deflects every single bullet fired her way. Liu Ya doesn't let up, closing the distance with aggressive strikes. As he parries her blows, a realization hits him. His double attributes have leveled the playing field, completely erasing the strength gap. Suddenly, these high-stakes battles against elite opponents don't feel so terrifying anymore. Weaving side to side with just his pistol in hand, Liu Ya marvels at his own evolution. He baits the enemy in, allowing her daggers to slice through the air dangerously close, locking onto Strikes' head with cold precision. He plans to end this nightmare in the next heartbeat. A confident smile plays on his lips as he prepares the execution. Strikes, however, freezes, unable to comprehend that this low-level trash is actually cornering her. Shock paralyzes her. She's a deer in the headlights. But the moment Liu Ya sees her face, hesitation cripples him. He falters, canceling the lethal shot. That split second of mercy is a fatal error she's recovering. Instinct kicks in just in time. Liu Ya violently recoils, leaping backward to evade her retaliation. A wave of self-loathing crashes over him. He clutches his head, freezing in place as the trauma of his enemy burns in his mind. Chaos reigns in his thoughts. Why didn't he pull the trigger? Is it fear? Is he still just a coward, terrified of dying? Staring at the weapon in his shaking hand, doubt whispers that he will never be strong enough to seize his own destiny, that he'll remain a child forever, cowering before every obstacle in his path. No. He tightens his grip on the gun until his knuckles turn white. His future is being written in this very moment. Strike senses the shift too. She knows only one of them walks away from this arena. The protagonist's fate hangs by a thread. With a roar, he launches himself forward. No more tricks. They collide head-on. Strikes is faster, her blade slashes for his neck, but Liu Ya is a ghost. He slips the fatal blow and materializes right behind her. He grabs her by the hair, jamming the gun barrel against her skull. His mind is crystal clear now. The boy is gone. A killer stands in his place. Bam! Without a second of hesitation, Liu Ya pulls the trigger, and 3 system windows flash before his eyes. Target destroyed. Level increased. Welcome to level 20. The path to true power has finally opened. Liu Ya's expression is stone cold. He hasn't just caught up, he has left the rest of the pack in the dust. Back in the lobby, the gamblers go wild. They bet on the underdog, and the payout is massive. But the mood shifts when the green-haired spectator speaks up, reminding everyone that the game isn't over. Even Jack, who doubled down on a level 20 Strikes, lost everything. The undeniable truth spreads through the room. Liu Ya is a monster. Analyzing the fight, the green-haired guy calculates. Taking down a level 20 Strikes puts Liu Ya at level 22, maybe 23. He is ready for the big leagues, the level 30 mirror copies. The hero locks eyes on the next target. The crowd is baffled. How can he be so arrogant to challenge the level 30 Strikes with 100% confidence? It looks like suicide. The consensus is clear the moment he steps into that ring. He is a dead man. Liu Ya teleports back to the preparation void, the thrill of victory coursing through him. He is undeniably the apex predator now. He scans the tournament bracket. There she is, sitting at the top, the level 30 mirror copy of Strikes. Before, he fought to prove he could survive. Now he fights to shatter a legend. Most players call her invincible. He calls her next. Whispers ripple through the spectator stands as the match approaches. Legend has it a high-level player even reset his account just to beat her, only to be crushed again. She didn't earn the titles of Invincible Copy and Strongest Fighter by accident. The New Order Guild built their entire supremacy on her back. She is the ultimate gatekeeper. Liu Ya doesn't care. He summons the system interface, eyes burning with bloodlust. He wants her head. The system prompts a final warning. Are you sure you wish to challenge the level 30 mirror copy? He smashes the confirm button without a second thought. High above, Jack scowls and barks orders to his minions, all in on strikes. Meanwhile, the camera pans to two familiar faces. One guy slams his chips down on the protagonist. The green-haired skeptic loses it, screaming at the reckless move. To him, it is throwing money away. Liu Ya is walking into a slaughter. But the white-haired gambler just smirks, doubling down on his faith in the boy. Cut to the arena, the nightmare begins. Level 30 Strikes is waiting. His opponent, Strikes, wielded the ominous katana Last Will and was clad in the legendary Fierce armor set. Liu Ya, on the other hand, was a mere level 23, with a basic pistol, a rusted dagger, and rookie gear. He looked like a lamb walking to the slaughter. Suddenly, a chime broke the tension, a notification for Liu Ya. Intelligence exceeds 100 points. Knowledge power increased by +1. Distracted by the screen, Liu Ya left himself wide open. Strikes vanished, reappearing instantly to slash him for a staggering 411 damage. Liu Ya gasped, his health plummeting to a critical 18 points. The speed was impossible, Strikes was a blur. The follow-up strike should have been the end, but on pure instinct, Liu Ya raised his dagger, parrying death by a hair's breadth. Frustration boiled over with every passing second. This wasn't just a duel, it was a fight for survival. One split second slower, and he'd be a corpse. Gritting his teeth, he deflected the blade, dove backward, and unloaded his pistol at Strikes in one fluid motion. Every bullet flew with deadly precision. Liu Ya desperately tried to end it fast, but every attack felt completely futile against this monster. Strikes weaved through the gunfire effortlessly, as if the world was moving in slow motion for him alone. In a blink, the gap vanished. Strikes lunged, blade poised for the execution. Liu Ya was caught off guard. To his shock, Strikes ignored the dagger grazing his armor, trading the hit to land a heavy blow that forced Liu Ya to spam heals just to stay standing. The onslaught was overwhelming. If Liu Ya hadn't reacted in that microsecond, it would have been game over. He scrambled to recover, ducking and sidestepping the lethal steel storm. Creating distance, Liu Ya raised his gun again, but his focus drifted for a moment. It didn't make sense. His stats rivaled a level 46 player, yet Strikes was pushing him to the absolute edge. But as he steeled himself, fear turned to resolve. If this was Strikes' limit, Liu Ya knew one massive burst of damage could steal the win. That was the moment Liu Ya decided to unleash the skill, Blessing. A powerhouse ability that supercharged all target stats and triggered a unique state for exactly 1 minute. He had also analyzed Curse, a nasty skill capable of inflicting one of 10 debilitations: weakness, aging, lethargy, stupidity, fatigue, poisoning, hallucinations, warped perception, chaos, or madness. As the skill activated, a new window flashed. Blessing acquired. His base combat power was 15, but with the multipliers, his stats skyrocketed, eclipsing Strikes' power instantly. Liu Ya didn't hesitate for a second. He roared, activating the buff. He might be underleveled, but with these stats he could crush this guy. 400 cognitive power consumed, all stats increased by 200 for 1 minute. The clock was ticking. A blinding white aura erupted around Liu Ya, radiating a terrifying pressure that dominated the battlefield. Bathed in that light, he found his courage. For 60 seconds, he was a god. He had the power to annihilate Strikes. Strikes froze, stunned by the sudden surge of power from the protagonist. But he wasn't going to wait around to die. He took the initiative. He rocketed forward, desperate to put Liu Ya down before that power could be unleashed. Liu Ya's mind raced. If he won this, the secret was out. Everyone would know he was a monster hiding in beginner's gear. They'd hail him as the strongest. Snapping back to reality, he saw the enemy closing in. Liu Ya dodged left and right, but evasion wasn't enough. Strikes was on top of him. Liu Ya leveled his pistol and pulled the trigger. Bang. The first round slammed into Strike's chest, staggering him. Liu Ya didn't stop there. He unleashed a relentless barrage. Within seconds, over 10 bullet holes riddled Strike's body. By all rights, the man should have dropped. But suddenly, Strike stood tall, completely unfazed and ready to brawl. A chilling smile crept onto the enemy's face. He understood what was happening. As Liu Ya reloaded, Strikes analyzed the anomaly. This rookie had stats that defied logic, backed by passive skills that triggered at death's door. That was the real threat, and worse. The Mirrored Kingdom system was rigged against NPCs, making every victory an uphill battle. Liu Ya realized he was the exception to the rule. He shifted into his fighting stance. The timer was flashing red. He had to finish Strikes before the buff expired, or he was dead meat. Determined to end this before the clock hits 0, Liu Ya unleashes a furious assault. Only 25 seconds remain on the skill's duration. As he attacks, he knows losing isn't an option. This is about more than survival. It's about rewriting his history and seizing the destiny he failed to control in the past. With every strike, the distance closes. Strikes is relentless, bearing down on the protagonist. 15 seconds left. Liu Ya leaps backward, dodging a fatal swing, and instantly counters. It's a blur of motion attack, parry, attack, giving the enemy 0 room to breathe. The timer ticks down to the final moments. Bang! A bullet slams squarely into Strikes' forehead, shattering the boss's helmet. The massive figure shudders violently, his weapon slipping from his trembling grasp. The onslaught ceases. Drained of all vitality, Strikes collapses to the floor, stone dead. The system interface flickers and dissolves, leaving the enemy's corpse lying still on the cold ground. Liu Ya stares at the body, panting. He can't believe it. He actually defeated the strongest boss in the Mirrored World instance. His mind races, imagining the global chat exploding with his victory. They would call him the Apex player, the legend who soloed the level 30 boss, the mighty Strikes. They'd praise his hidden skills, calling him an invincible warrior who defies the game's logic. But then, he imagines the skeptics. Someone would surely comment that titles mean nothing to true level 30 players, claiming they exist in a completely different dimension of power. To illustrate, a spectator might explain that a standard level 30 player is, at best, the dirt beneath Liu Ya's boots, implying that the ordinary elites could never hope to reach his level. These grandiose thoughts send his confidence skyrocketing, his spirit soaring high on the adrenaline of the kill. Several notifications pop up on his HUD. The first is a victory banner. The second details a massive payout in both currency and experience points. A grin stretches across his face. He can barely contain the rush. He hasn't just gained loot and levels, he's conquered a deep-seated fear. A flash of light, and the system warps him back to the Mirrored Kingdom lobby. In the waiting room, Jack stares at the screen, jaw dropped. He can't process that Liu Ya actually soloed the strongest copy in the kingdom. Shock quickly turns to rage. Jack's face twists as he realizes the fortune he just lost betting on Strikes to win. Meanwhile, 2 other players are losing their minds with joy. They bet on the underdog. The white-haired youth is practically dancing, grinning at the pile of spirit stones he just won. I told you I knew Liu Ya was the real deal, payday, baby. He turns to the crowd, shouting that everyone should trust their gut instincts from now on. But his friend grips his arm, cutting the celebration short. Keep it down. It's too early to celebrate. Anything can happen. He whispers a warning. We need to log off. Now. And in the real world, we move apartments tonight. Jack isn't going to let this slide. The scene shifts to the real world. Inside Liu Ya's modest home, he sits on his bed. The silence of the room contrasting with the chaos of battle. He's quietly processing his victory against the game's strongest copy. Suddenly, the doorknob turns. A girl appears from the other room, his sister. You must be starving, she says. Want me to make something? But Liu Ya has other plans. He flashes a warm smile. Get dressed. We're going out. Tonight. I'm treating you to barbecue. As they head down the stairs, the girl looks at him skeptically. Where did you get the money? You know restaurants are way out of our budget. He laughs, a genuine, carefree sound. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Let's just say I won a massive pot in the game. We need to celebrate our luck properly. His sister accepts it without prying further. The next day, still buzzing from the win, Liu Ya makes a crucial online purchase. He hits buy and waits. A confirmation pops up. Estimated delivery 2 months. He slumps at the table, staring at the screen in disbelief. 2 months. The Yuan World is scheduled to take over reality in just 24 days. It's a logistical nightmare, but every other store he checked was out of stock. He has no choice, but he doesn't let it break him. He clenches his fist, resolving to work even harder to bridge the gap while he waits. Scene shift. A sunny waterfront promenade where 2 girls are walking together. They look uncomfortable, shrinking under the gaze of passers-by. Suddenly, the best friend turns to Yoon. Yoon, why did your brother ask me out on a date? Her mind is spiraling with worst-case scenarios. Is something wrong? Did something terrible happen? Yoon doesn't answer immediately. She just beams, a wide, mischievous smile plastered on her face as she gets lost in her own little fantasy. She's not seeing a date, she's seeing a wedding. Her real goal is to introduce her brother to her best friend. And why not? She's gorgeous, comes from a wealthy family, and most importantly, she has a heart of gold. If she becomes Liu Ya's fiancé, Yoon's worries about their future would vanish instantly. Snapping back to reality, Yoon keeps the smile and lies smoothly. Oh, he just missed you terribly. That's why he wanted to see you. Her friend stared at her, deadpan. She demanded to know where she'd been. She hadn't even dropped a single message in the work group chat for days. Yoon narrowed her eyes. She suspected a secret boyfriend, but honestly, she didn't care. Nothing was going to derail her plans. The date with Liu Yi was set in stone. Nan adjusted her cap with a heavy sigh, muttering that she didn't even know where to start explaining this mess. Suddenly, the girl screamed, dropping a bombshell that her parents were actually forcing her to grind in some intense online game. Yan stood there, totally baffled. The answer was so out of left field, she was left speechless. Cut to a local dive bar. Jack is losing it, blind with rage. He violently backhands the redhead he had summoned to comfort him. The impact is brutal. She hits the floor hard, sprawling across the cold tiles. She lies there, fighting to stay conscious, but Jack isn't done. He keeps attacking her. He hates her pity. He despises anyone who looks down on him. A crowd gathers instantly, shocked murmurs rippling through the room as they watch the assault. But nobody moves. Cowards. They know Jack. And they know this isn't his first time snapping like this. Feeling their eyes on him, Jack spins around. He snarls, demanding to know what they're whispering about. Silence. They don't answer. They run, one by one. They scatter, terrified of ending up like the bloody mess on the floor. Still fuming, Jack spits on the unconscious girl. His phone rings. He grabs it when he sees friend on the ID. He answers immediately, voice tight. Did you find Liu Yi's address? No, comes the reply, but the caller claims to have a plan. Jack listens, eyes narrowing. Is it foolproof? When he hears it's 100% guaranteed, a twisted grin breaks across his face. His eyes burn with pure hate. He wants revenge against Liu Yi, and he won't rest until he gets it. Voice dripping with venom, Jack makes a promise, find him, and I wire the rest of the cash immediately. The call cuts, and the scene shifts. Enter Liu Yi, just logging back into the game world. He stands before the Mirrored Kingdoms building, contemplating the level cap. The mirror copies max out at level 30 here. It's a dead end. He realizes he can't level up here anymore. The enemies are just trash mobs to him now. Time to move on. He turns his back on the safe zone and sets a course for the Ruined Kingdom, the only place where he can truly evolve. But then he catches his reflection and grimaces. He's still wearing the starter armor. That is not going to fly. Upgrade time. Liu Yi heads straight for the nearest weapon shop. He steps up to the display, and a system menu pops open, showcasing the top-tier gear available. But then, he sees the prices. He freezes. The look on his face says it all. He is broke. He can't afford any of this high-end armor. Shoulders slumped in disappointment, he walks out of the shop and trudges back through the kingdom. He realizes hanging around here is useless. You can't even farm the crafting materials he needs in this zone. The Ruined Kingdom is the answer. He can farm the mats there and craft his own level 20 gear easily. Sure, he has enough cash to buy level 20 gear outright, but he's playing the long game. No need to rush. He's about to hit level 30 anyway. Plus, he needs to manage his finances in the real world. No time to waste. He sets off for the Ruined Kingdom, planning to join a squad. Teaming up means faster leveling and better loot drops. He arrives to find the place buzzing. Teams are shouting everywhere, recruiting players for dungeon runs of all levels. Some are open to level 20s, but the elite squads are strictly looking for level 30s for the hard raids. Louis hangs back and overhears two players gossiping about a new guild order. They're talking about a disaster in the level 40 Chaos dungeon. 10 players went in, all 10 wiped, stats completely reset. Louis knows the mechanics. Dungeons have 4 strict clearance conditions, no matter how big your team is. More players usually means better rewards. But there is a deadly catch. Once you step inside, the door locks behind you. There is no exit until the dungeon is cleared. And in Yuan World, death in the Ruined Kingdom isn't just a setback, it's a total wipe. You lose everything. That is why these teams are so picky. But Liu Yi isn't worried. With his skills, he figures he's an easy pick. Confident, he walks up to the first recruiter and gets shut down immediately. Level 30 players only. He tries the next group, rejected. His gear is trash, and they let him know it. Third time, he doesn't even get a word out. Full party, get lost. Crushed and humiliated, Louis drops to his knees. It's unbelievable nobody wants him. Even after taking down Strike's a level 30 monstrosity, he felt like his true power was being ignored. He's already proved he's no amateur, regardless of what his level or gear score says on paper. Frustrated, he started to wonder if he should just swallow his pride and grind low-level dungeons for scrap gear. He knows the grind ahead is going to be long, tedious, and brutal. Still, he scrapes together the willpower to stand, ready to face the music. When footsteps crunch behind him, a voice cuts through the air. A team is short one member. Curious, Liu Ya spins around, trying to figure out who the lucky recruit is supposed to be. Standing there is Jack, flashing a charming smile. He looks Liu Ya up and down and drops the pitch to join their expedition into a hellish level 35 dungeon built for 10 players. Their eyes meet, and Liu Ya's instincts scream. Something about this offer stinks. But Jack keeps the sales pitch rolling, swearing his team is stacked enough to carry the raid on their own. They don't need a fighter, they need a warm body. The raid portal won't activate without a 10th player to fill the slot. Liu Ya blinks, taken aback. Jack's face triggers a sense of deja vu, but the memory is slippery, he can't quite place where they've met. Jack doesn't give him time to process. You in, or do I find someone who is... This is a chance he can't afford to fumble. Liu Ya cuts him off and accepts the deal on the spot. Jack offers a dismissive wave and commands him to follow. Together, they head for the entrance of the level 30 portal, the gateway for the 10-man group. When they reach the rendezvous point near the ruined royal portal, it's already packed. The other players are clad in spectacular armor, sparking immediate whispers about the leader's bizarre choice of a teammate. Nobody can believe he recruited a rookie packing nothing but a basic pistol. Liu Ya scans the group and quickly realizes he is vastly outgunned. The purple aura radiating from their gear tells the story more than half the team is equipped with items of timeless rarity. He rubs his chin, calculating. He's not just impressed, he's wondering if he can manage to steal some of that high-tier loot. Suddenly, a voice booms out. We're all here. Let's move. I want to hit level 40, like right now. A bald man steps up with a grin. Once we hit 40, we're gonna need a wardrobe change anyway. Tell you what, he laughs. I might just donate my old gear to the charity pool. But the player just smirks, refusing to hand anything over unless someone buffs his weapon with 3 rare items from their own stash. No takers. The chatter dies, and the group marches toward the portal, with Liu Ya trailing slowly in their wake. Watching them, he notices the easy camaraderie. They all know each other. So why invite a stranger to a level 35 mission? Then he catches the malicious grins they trade when they think he's not looking. This isn't friendship, it's a trap. The portal swirls open, transporting them to a vast, arid desert. In the center of the wasteland stands a solitary, mysterious crystal. Jack and another vanguard are the first to cross the threshold, immediately scanning the perimeter. A teammate shouts out the objective: guard the crystal at all costs. Jack takes command instantly. Surround the crystal, secure the area. Everyone snaps to attention except Liu Ya, who hesitates. Jack's voice drops to a threatening growl. You let monsters touch that crystal. You're paying for the damages yourself. Liu Ya is secretly impressed by their discipline, though he keeps his face blank. Taking his time, he analyzes the crystal until a system notification flashes in his vision. Mission loading. Done. The objective is to defend the crystal against 3 waves of enemies. At the bottom of his HUD, he sees the crystal's health bar and the penalty for failure: death for every single player. A shout shatters his concentration. Enemies incoming, brace yourselves. Liu Ya stares into the desert, seeing nothing but a wall of dense fog, but he quickly realizes that's no ordinary weather. The monsters are generating it, and from that smoking screen, something bursts out at breakneck speed. It's a spider, but mutated into a nightmare with absurdly massive fangs. The bald man screams at Liu Ya, "Get to the crystal, you drift, you die." Not seeing a reason to fight the order yet, the protagonist obeys. Suddenly, the sky buzzes as a swarm of monstrous insects descends on the bald man and his giant axe. It looks like game over for him, but the man has a very different plan for this raid. With a single, devastating swing, he obliterates multiple beetles at once. He watches his teammates crushing the bugs like ants. Their teamwork is flawless. The protagonist realizes the truth. This group is elite. They know exactly what they're doing. He feels like a spare part in this machine, realizing he doesn't need to lift a finger. Trying too hard might just get in the way. Jack is dismantling monsters with surgical precision until he stops, shooting a meaningful look at his sword-wielding ally. One glance is all it takes. The ally understands the assignment, let a monster slip the net and head straight for the protagonist. Without hesitation, he engages the first enemy, feigns a mistake, and lets it pass, pretending he just wasn't fast enough to kill it. The arachnid nightmare skittered across the floor, focusing its lethal intent solely on the crystal core, but the young warrior didn't flinch. A confident smirk played on his lips as panic erupted behind him, teammates screaming that a beast had breached the perimeter. It was over in a heartbeat. Seconds later, the creature lay dead. As the dust settled, he analyzed his temporary allies. Their coordination was decent, sure, but their raw power mediocre at best. They were nothing compared to the strike clone he had crushed earlier. A blue system window chimed, the first wave was down, and the crystal remained untouched. The countdown began 10 minutes until the next onslaught. With the sector clear, the team collapsed to catch their breath, one fighter marveling at the newcomer's lethal efficiency. Who would have guessed, clad in starter junk? Yet he just soloed a beast 10 levels his senior, a true hidden master. The swordsman who had leaked the mob sat head in hands, drowning in guilt. If their 10th man hadn't ghosted them, the line would have held. The bald tank slapped him on the back, dismissing the error since the crisis was averted. He then pivoted to Liu Ya, laying down the strategy for the next wave. He needed to hold the line with the main group, no more leaks. The player sitting beside Liu Ya leaned in, eyes gleaming with an idea. Why not bring this powerhouse into the fold permanently? He popped the question. How about making this official? Think about it, no more scrambling for randoms to fill a lobby. Together, they could crush high-tier raids. The offer was tempting. For a fleeting second, Liu Ya actually considered saying yes. Before the words left his mouth, the armored tank turned to their leader. "Jack, what's your take on keeping Liu Ya around?" Jack grinned, a predator's smile. "I'm open to it," he said smoothly, "but we have rules." New Blood had to dox themselves phone numbers, real-world home addresses, supposedly for security against betrayals. Liu Ya paused. He didn't speak, but his internal alarm bells began to ring. Jack spun a sob story about a past betrayal, how someone named Sam had looted their hard-earned gear and vanished into the night. That theft was why they were struggling now. If Liu Ya wanted in, he had to sign away his privacy. The gears turned in Liu Ya's mind. The subtext was loud and clear, even if they danced around it. As the words hung in the air, Jack and his crew exchanged looks, smirks dripping, with a malice they barely bothered to hide. Liu Ya's instincts screamed. They claimed they just wanted a raid partner. The atmosphere in the hall shifted instantly. Liu Ya stood up, scanning the room full of mid-tier players. This was no random matchmaking. He had been headhunted. The friendly act, the accidental leak of the monster, it was all a stress test to gauge his actual combat rating. And now, the recruitment pitch. Liu Ya chuckled coldly. Connect the dots, and it spelled out one thing: they were hunting for his real-world location. Jack's aura flared with rage, but Liu Ya didn't flinch. He kept talking. He pegged Jack as a manager for the New Order Guild's Mirror Realm operations. He'd heard whispers about their tactics before joining. Rumor had it they tracked down a 20-year-old prodigy who could solo boss-level strikes, using his real address as leverage. That kid vanished from the face of the earth. Liu Ya smirked. "I am flattered," he quipped. "You think I'm that guy, the one who clears level 30 strikes." The pieces fit. Jack had assembled his kill squad for one reason: uncover his identity and silence him offline. Jack tried to play it cool, laughing it off as a case of mistaken identity, but the tension was razor sharp. Liu Ya drew his blade. "I never gave a damn about your team," he declared. He was just here for the payout and the XP. But now that the masks were off, there was no point in pretending. They were hostiles, and hostiles get eliminated. Jack stood tall, eyes burning with murderous intent as his squad closed the net around the solo player. He scoffed. "You think you can take 9 of us? We're 10 levels above you, kid. You're delusional." A rogue attacked from the blind spot, screaming insults. Suddenly, the system intervened. 30 power points consumed. Next attack damage increased by 1,500. Stats flashed: 414 power remaining, 450 cognition. Flash of steel. The attacker didn't just die, he was launched backward, lifeless before he hit the ground. Silence descended. 1 hit. He had one-shot a player 10 levels his superior. The crowd is stunned into silence. Nobody expected an underdog to instantly crush an opponent leagues above his level. The fallen player's corpse doesn't just vanish. It ignites with an intense azure glow, the body dissolving into pure energy as if rewriting its own existence. The light condenses, coalescing into a shimmering orb hovering right in front of Liu Ya, a blue military pearl. In this world, these rare treasures only drop when a player is utterly defeated. It is a gamble for power, a chance to plunder a random item straight from the victim's inventory or equipment slots. Liu Ya snatches the orb from the air, his gaze cold. "You think defeating 9 players is impossible?" he taunts. Jack snaps. Enraged by this rookie's arrogance, he screams a command, ordering his entire squad to rush Liu Ya at once. The mob surges forward, desperate to bury him under sheer numbers before he can blink. Big mistake. Liu Ya has abandoned all mercy. Within seconds, the first attacker hits the dirt. One by one, they drop, mirroring the grisly fate of their leader. Liu Ya knows exactly what he is doing. He's not just winning, he's extinguishing their future. He has no choice. Survival's non-negotiable. If he falls here, his sister loses her only hope of uncovering these players' true identities. Let them call him a monster. He must become stronger. When Yuan World eventually merges with reality, his current power will not be enough to protect her. He needs to stand at the absolute apex. And to get there, he has to cull the weak who dare to block his path. Liu Ya steps over this growing mountain of corpses. Jack and his remaining men freeze, paralyzed by the horrific realization that they cannot touch him. It defies logic. Their levels dwarf his. Their gear is superior. They should be winning. Jack grinds his teeth in frustration, realizing he severely underestimated this kid's true power. Panic spreads through Jack's ranks. The survivors start begging Liu Ya to cease fire. "Stop," they cry. "If they die here, they lose their progress. Their dungeon runs fail, and their resources vanish." Liu Ya scoffs. "Irrelevant. I will just hit the secret mirror zone and grind it back in a single day." But for this mob, it is a death sentence. They lose their gear, and they lack the skill to survive the high-level mobs in the mirror realm. Jack's face twists in anger. He threatens to rally reinforcements. "I will have an army waiting to block you from the secret mirror zone," he yells. Liu Ya just throws his head back and laughs. The slaughter resumes. Liu Ya tears through the remaining allies while Jack watches in disbelief. Jack opens his mouth to order a retreat, but he is too slow. 2 more subordinates behind him drop dead before he can utter a syllable. As his squad is dismantled, a memory flashes in Jack's mind, a meeting with a powerful VIP regarding the UN World rankings. The deal was simple: maintain top-tier status by any means necessary, and the VIP would cover their tracks. But the warning was clear: fail, and I will cut you loose. I will expose your crimes and ensure you rot. Jack snaps back to the present. The silence is deafening. Everyone else is dead. He is the last one standing. As Liu Ya moves for the kill, Jack's pride crumbles. He drops to his knees, begging for his life. Liu Ya does not speak. He just stares down with cold indifference, a look that ignites a new spark of humiliated fury in Jack. Groveling like this, Jack feels utterly pathetic. It is disgusting. "Spare me," Jack gasps, "and I will tell you the truth about UN World." Liu Ya cracks a smile. "Talk. Do not leave anything out." Jack tries to leverage his position, demanding a promise of safety. Liu Ya's response: a vicious blow that sends Jack flying backward. "Too slow," Liu Ya sneers. "If you are going to stall, You can take your secrets to the grave. I am done listening. Jack hits the sand hard, but something is wrong. He does not shatter into data. No loot drop. No pearl. Against all odds, he survived. Shaking uncontrollably, Jack struggles to his feet, leaving Luya genuinely surprised. Luya raises an eyebrow. That should have been a killing blow. How is this guy still standing? Suddenly, a rumble echoes across the desert dunes. Luya's head snaps up. A second wave is incoming. Jack spits blood, a manic grin forming. You know something, do you not? That is the only way you got this strong. You have cracked the Yuan World's code. It is the only explanation that makes sense to him. How else could a nobody overpower a top-tier player like Jack? I am reporting this, Jack rasps. Once the higher-ups know, you are finished. They will hunt you down, kill you, and reset you all the way back to level 1. Standing fully upright now, Jack taunts him. You think you can fight the system, fight people like me? Jack laughs. It is impossible. No one levels up this fast without help. Jack is convinced once Luya's little trick is exposed, his advantage will evaporate, and the real game will begin. The desperation kicks in. Jack starts groveling again, begging Luya to spare his pathetic life. He offers a deal he'll spill his secrets, and together, with Luya's monstrous strength, they could wipe this dungeon clean. Luya just smirks. What makes you think I'm dying here, or that I need you to clear this? Jack freezes, unable to process the sheer arrogance. The math didn't add up. The guy is only level 28. Everyone hits a wall eventually. At least, that's what Jack told himself. Then Luya drops the bomb. Say, what happens if I slap on some level 56 gear, a level 35 dungeon becomes a walk in the park, doesn't it? Jack's mind reels. Luya holds up 2 glowing pearls. Is that the restricted gear? The stuff he shouldn't even possess. He squints, focusing on the shimmering blue orb resting in Luya's grip. Denial washes over him, but his face betrays him pure, unadulterated shock. With a grin that screams, game over, Luya commands the blue orb to unleash its payload. Flash of light, boom. He's decked out in sleek yellow and black armor. A purple ranked frost tank top, massive buffs, straight off the bat. Covering him is a purple ranked rapid combat suit. Resistance, strength, agility, armor. The requirement level 30. On his hands, combat gloves. They trade raw strength for heightened sensory precision. His feet lock into violet ranked high-speed combat boots. Agility through the roof. But the centerpiece, a purple ranked beam katana. Attack power boosted by 260. Defense up by 30. Lethal. The stats are off the charts. According to the combat algorithm, he's now fighting with the skills of a level 46 warlord. He chuckles. I really should thank those guys I just butchered. Free gear is the best gear. His combat prowess has tripled in a heartbeat. His enemies never stood a chance. They were dead before they even moved. Jack is paralyzed, brain empty. Almost 3 times the stats. It's cheating. It has to be. The shock fades, replaced by a creeping irritation. That irritation ignites into blinding rage. He screams, voice cracking. It doesn't matter how strong you are. You can't solo this. It's impossible. The roar of the horde answers him. Monsters close in at breakneck speed. One beast lunges straight for the crystal. Luya doesn't blink. He cuts them down. 1 ant dies. 10 more take its place. Hundreds of them swarm from the rear, desperate to kill him and reset his progress. But Luya, he's an immovable object. He dissects them one by one. Losing isn't an option. If he falls here, his sister is defenseless. The pearl's effect kicks in. He shuts off his brain, letting raw instinct guide the blade. Automatic slaughter. Enemies on all sides. Fine. He stands his ground, a guardian demon protecting the crystal. It's life or death. Victory's the only way out. The ants fall in droves. The mountain of corpses grows, but the swarm is endless. Luya's health ticks down to near 0, then boom, healing spell. He's back in the fight, stamina untouched. Jack manages to skewer a few ants, trying to stay relevant. He sees Luya's health bar flash red, then fill back up. Instant recovery. Jack rubs his eyes. Rare potions, he yells. Doesn't matter. I just have to dodge and wait for you to run out. Luya doesn't even look at him. His eyes are locked on the slaughter. Jack keeps raving. You'll pay for looking down on me. Luya smirks, slicing through chitin. Worry about your own neck, Jack. I can wipe these bugs out in my sleep. Begging won't save you now. That stings. Jack's blood boils. Even with his back to the wall, Luya is spitting fire. Jack stays sharp, catching a flanking ant and putting it down. Meanwhile, Luya is painting the room with monster blood. Health drops, heal, repeat. The machine doesn't stop. Hours bleed away. He's killing ants on a loop. No fear, no hesitation. Just a sea of dead bodies. The swarm keeps coming for the crystal. Jack stares at the carnage, mind broken. How, he thinks, nobody carries that many potions. It's physically impossible. While he's busy doing the math on the body count, he stops paying attention. A monster blindsides him, sinking its teeth into his arm. Massive damage, health critical, panic mode. He reaches for a potion, opens the inventory. It's empty. Shock froze him in place. This was the end. His health bar was flashing red at rock bottom, and the enemy horde was closing in from every shadow. The tank was empty. He had nothing left to give. Then the beast lunged, tearing into him relentlessly, shredding flesh and bone with every strike. Yet, even as the darkness consumed him, Jack's mind clung to one desperate refusal. He couldn't accept checking out first. He needed to see Luya die before he did. But a glance across the battlefield shattered that hope. The hero was dancing through the carnage, slaughtering enemies without breaking a sweat. Fine. Jack swore Luya would pay for this arrogance the moment he respawned in the lobby. The young protagonist watched the scene with a grin. Fatigue non-existent. His stamina was barely touched. In fact, he was loving this. Every monster that charged him wasn't a threat. It was just raw experience points and combat mastery waiting to be harvested. A moment later, Jack vanished booted straight to the lobby, his level progress wiped clean as a penalty. A system notification pinged on the protagonist interface team status sole survivor. With the dead weight gone and the solo conditions met, the dungeon clear reward just skyrocketed a massive tenfold multiplier. Hours of grinding against the insect swarm finally took their toll. The hero slumped to the muddy ground, chest heaving, gasping for air. He sat amidst a graveyard of exoskeletons. Every single one had fallen by his hand, and finally, the relentless assault paused. The screeching stopped. He eyed the mountain of carcasses, relief washing over him. The system would wipe these bodies before the second wave hit. If not, he'd lose sight of the core crystal he needed to defend. Then, something glinted in the distance. The golden inscription orb, a rare drop that allowed a player to loot 3 random items from a fallen comrade's inventory. Luya's exhaustion vanished instantly. He scrambled to his feet, a greedy smile stretching across his face. He couldn't believe his luck. Just as he expected from the manager of the mirror instance, the risks were finally paying off. He'd actually done it. Snatching up the golden orb, the protagonist paused. His mind was racing, but his mental energy was dangerously low. He had a 10-minute window to recover, enough to restore maybe half his stamina. That wouldn't be enough. The third and final wave was coming. He cursed himself for engaging the Zukov boss too early. He should have saved that energy for the finale. Now, his survival hinged entirely on whatever loot this golden orb coughed up. He whispered the activation command. A holographic prompt materialized select reward type equipment or items. Luya ran the numbers, his logic kicking in. His strength, agility, and armor were on the brink of hitting 100 points. If he could snag gear to push those stats over the edge, his combat power would spike. He didn't hesitate. He slammed the button for equipment. System acknowledgement flashed. The orb cracked open, initiating the retrieval process. First, a set of purple and gray amber gear materialized an instant boost of 10 agility and plus 5 to senses. Then, a ring slipped perfectly onto his right hand. But the jackpot was the third item, a purple grade pendulum pistol. It packed 200 strength, 30 wisdom, and a target lock ability. On top of that, it came with a devastating perk triple damage on attacks or a guaranteed stun. It even featured auto reload, though it carried a 60-second cooldown. Luya stared at the weapon, shell-shocked. This was god-tier loot. It wasn't just a lucky day, it was a miracle. He hadn't just buffed his armor, he'd massively upgraded his primary firepower. He pulled up his status window, eyes scanning the numbers. 4 of his attributes had shattered the 100-point ceiling. He was practically vibrating with power. A thought crossed his mind. If those traitors hadn't tried to kill him, he never would have looted their corpses and become this powerful. A dark, Amused smile played on his lips. Thanks for the donation, boys. He was ready for war. His level might be low, but once he defended the crystal and cleared this dungeon, he'd vault straight into the ranks of the top players. Scene shift. The nocturnal city lights blurred as we cut to the cold, sterile interior of the resurrection room. Jack stood there, head hung low, trying to explain his failure to the boss. Liuya, he's got a secret. His stats are broken. Desperation leaked into his voice as he tried to justify the loss. I'm telling you, if he was normal, I wouldn't have died to him, Jack insisted. You know how insane the Ruined Kingdom dungeon is, boss? A level 28 clearing a level 35 dungeon solo. It's impossible. Something is definitely wrong with him. The boss stared him down with pure contempt. You get one last chance. Spend the next few days grinding levels. As for Liuya, I'll handle him personally. I'm sending the hit squad. Jack swallowed hard, thanking the leader for the reprieve. He promised he wouldn't fail again. Snap back to reality. We find ourselves in a random cafe, witnessing Yoon absolutely tearing into Nan. Apparently, Nan's entire family's addicted to the game. Nan defends herself. They aren't just playing, they're raking in serious cash. This revelation catches Yoon completely off guard. Nan still can't wrap her head around it, but her parents are relentless, forcing her to grind levels with them every single day. She's burnt out, sick of it. Even though her parents insist on the grind, Nan wants to forge her own path. Suddenly, Nan bolts upright with an idea. Why don't Yoon and her brother come over to play at her place? She hints, rather boldly, that playing with Yoon's brother would be entertaining. Yoon is floored by the sudden invitation. She doesn't even have a gaming rig. But then, it clicks. This is the golden ticket to set Nan up with her brother. If she can get them gaming together, it's a guaranteed win. All she has to do is concoct an excuse, slip away, and leave the two of them alone. It's a devious little scheme. Without missing a beat, she agrees to head over to Nan's house. Back in the game, Liu faces the third wave. It's an onslaught. He tears through opponents, dropping them one by one. He's never felt raw power like this. With his new gear equipped, every cell in his body surges with energy, amplifying his strength the harder he fights. The blade in his hands feels weightless, an extension of his own will. His movements blur with speed. He launches into the air, soaring high above the monstrous horde below. In this moment, he is a god among insects. But amidst the slaughter, something catches Liu's eye. It's a creature that gives him pause, yet his gaze never wavers. He unleashes his ultimate attack, crashing down like a meteor and obliterating the entire ant swarm in a single, devastating strike. But it's not enough. He craves more power, more experience, more skills. As he crushes the ants, his ambition soars. He wants to reach heights he previously only dared to dream of. Suddenly, looming high above the fodder, the creature reveals itself, a level 35 spider boss. Liu doesn't hesitate. He moves to end this right here, right now. System notifications flood his vision. Dungeon clear, the rewards start rolling in. He rakes in a massive experience drop, 360,000 points instantly multiplied by 10. He also unlocks a new title, Dungeon Defender. The buff for every ally lost. His stats spike by 10%. His numbers are skyrocketing. Hitting level 36, his attribute panel glows gold. Damage, defense, agility, intelligence, every single stat, including cognitive power, has reached terrifying new levels. Back at level 30, he unlocked a skill branch selection. Option 1, Silence. An active skill that slashes all cooldowns by 5 seconds instantly. It costs 50 cognitive power, and every level up adds another second to the reduction. Option 2, Captivity. It chains an enemy to their starting spot for a full 10 seconds. With the boss slain, Liu collapses, exhausted but grinning. He actually did it. He soloed that behemoth. In just a few hours, his power has exploded. It's almost unbelievable. Scene shift back to the real world. Liu steps out onto his balcony, letting the fresh air hit his face. He replays the battle in his mind, swelling with pride. He's just biding his time, waiting for the chance to get back into the game. His goal, power level his sister so she can survive whatever comes next. A door clicks shut behind him. He heads back inside to find his sister in the hallway, clutching a high-end gaming device. She explains how impossible these are to find, but luckily, her rich friend Nan pulled some strings to snag one. But that's not all. Yun walks into the room, and she's not alone. For a second, Liu Yi is stunned. A literal portal to the Yuan World, right in his sister's hands. Then, shock turns to pure joy. A massive grin spreads across his face. Finally, she can join him inside. Yoon drops the bombshell. Since Nan secured the gear, she needs to show proper gratitude. The result, Nan is moving in with them. Nan chirps a hello to Liu Yi, but Liu Yi, he's too busy staring at the hardware, unable to believe it's the real deal. It's incredible. Yun, however, is less than impressed by her brother completely ignoring their guest. Louis grabs the box, peppering them with questions about how they found it. Not that the details matter, he's just hyped. The only thing that matters is that the device is here. Yoon grimaces at his obsession. She can't believe it. Her brother is totally ignoring the beautiful girl standing right next to him, mesmerized by a gaming console. Even knowing Nan is moving in, his eyes are glued to the toy. Meanwhile, Nan is visibly shook. He's never seen a simple gadget bring Lu Ai so much joy. But to understand why, we need to rewind the clock 24 hours. We find ourselves in an uncharted level 40 dungeon, deep within a sprawling forest bathed in moonlight. A team of adventurers huddles around a campfire, plotting their next move. If they clear this dungeon, they'll overtake the second-ranked squad, and that means a massive payday. The conversation shifts to their ace in the hole, a terrifyingly powerful girl who single-handedly guided them to a hidden village. That girl is Wai, a rising star in the New Order Guild, currently sitting in the third-ranked team. Suddenly, a teammate named Xiao Yang steps up. He suggests that once this raid is over, she should apply for the #1 team to fast-track her growth. Wai just stares blankly, completely ignoring the advice like he isn't even there. Panic sets in among the others. One member whispers to the captain that if they lose her, their leveling speed will hit a brick wall. They brush off the man's logic, spiraling into fear. Without her, does this team even have a future? They've poured countless resources into gearing her up. They can't just let their best investment walk away when they need her most. The captain takes a deep breath, silencing the group. He insists they can't hold someone back just because they're feeling sentimental. He believes that even if she climbs to the peak of the New Order, she won't forget the people who helped her start. Wanting to seal the deal, the captain turns to her with a warm, fatherly smile. Wai simply smiles back. The anxious teammate buries his face in his hands, realizing he has no choice but to wish her luck on her new path. Another member chimes in, agreeing with the captain. It's selfish to anchor her here, they're just too weak to keep up. The mood shifts to support. Everyone assures her that if things get tough with the elites, she always has a home here, just like the day she first joined. They promise to help with anything she needs, showering her with genuine kindness and loyalty. Wai beams at them. She calls them her brothers, thanking them for their generosity, and since they're so willing to help, she has one final favor to ask. She drops her head, acting shy. The team pauses, confused by her sudden shift in demeanor. Dead silence hangs in the air, then a blinding flash of light erupts. Instantly, bodies drop, no signs of life. The sole survivor frantically casts a healing spell, his eyes widening in horror at the scene before him. It was Wai. Their sister has turned on them. Her ambition is absolute, to become the strongest player in the Yuan World. She needs to trigger the dungeon's hidden reward, and that requires a sacrifice. The captain, bleeding and betrayed, roars in fury. After everything they did for her, is this how she repays their loyalty? Wai just laughs, waving him off. She tells him to relax, it's not that deep. It's just a game. After all, they can just respawn and grind the levels back. No big deal. The captain snaps, screaming that she's an ungrateful monster. He draws his weapon and opens fire. Wai dances through the gunfire effortlessly. She mocks him, reminding him of the game's physics. Bullet velocity is capped in this world. Against a player with an agility stat over 100, a gun is nothing but a toy. In a blur of motion, she flickers behind the captain and drives her blade through his neck. As he falls, she delivers a cold lesson unlike bullets. Cold steel scales with the user's stats. With no limit on speed or damage, she cuts him down like a weed. Cut to the next day. We're in a level 45 dungeon, where a 20-man raid group is clashing with a massive humanoid beast. The raid leader checks his supplies, potions are running low. He calls out for a status report. This is Captain Strikes of the New Order. He fights with overwhelming force, his skills leaving the rest of the squad in awe. But his class has a fatal flaw. Devastating power requires a long charge-up time. Yet, once that meter hits full, he obliterates even the tankiest boss monsters without breaking a sweat. Strike stands at level 45. Beside him fights Blazing Fire, another level 45 elite of the New Order. Mid-battle, Strike spots a new player displaying raw power that rivals their own. He immediately strategizes, is this guy a threat or a recruit? The Guildmaster replies via comms, this rookie just took out the captain of the Mirrored Kingdom. Strike scratches his head, stunned. That's no small feat. He then asks about why. What is that psycho up to? The scene shifts to the edge of the safe zone, deep in the wild forest. A girl stands on a cliff's edge, the wind catching her hair as she scrolls through a holographic system menu. It's why. She receives a DM from Blazing Fire. Locate the new player, assess his power. A sinister smile spreads across her face. The order didn't say kill or recruit, just find him. But she knows players of that caliber are rare loot. If she can bring this powerhouse into the fold, it'll be a massive merit for the guild, and even more power for her. Eliminating him, however, would directly undermine the guild's expansion. The guildmaster couldn't care less about the boy's future, tossing the burden of choice onto her shoulders. Despite her high value, she still had to prove her loyalty by recruiting the protagonist. But after weighing the variables, she made her choice. She was going to kill him. Meanwhile, back at his safe house, Luya sat at his desk, mapping out the endgame strategy. The mission was clear: power level his character and gear to 60 and secure a fortified stronghold in reality before the apocalypse descends. He recalled from his past life that level 60 was the absolute cap. If he hits that peak before the worlds merge, he effectively becomes the apex predator. That kind of power is the only guarantee for his sister's safety. When public order crumbles and resources vanish, only the dominant guilds will hold the power to restore balance. In that coming hellscape, food replaces money as the ultimate currency. Stockpiling supplies and establishing a secure perimeter for him and his sister isn't just a plan, it is a necessity. He burns his funds renting the adjacent building and sinking the rest into rice and canned goods. Now, it is just a waiting game for the delivery. But in-game, he is only sitting at level 36. He is miles away from the target. To hit max level, he has to survive the grind and hoard real-world resources. It is the only path to a peaceful life after the takeover. Logging back in with his sister and her friend, he escorts them to the Armory Pavilion. He lectures them on the harsh truth of this world: strength is law, and mastery over weapons is the foundation of strength. To maximize their potential, they need to be versatile with every weapon type and unlock their latent abilities. While his sister inspects a spear, he cautions Nianu technique means nothing if you can't channel your Kai. They need to drill until they hit their limits. Nianu is currently at level 32. They lock in the training regimen. Luya heads for the exit, pausing to watch them. It hits him then his interference has already rewritten history. In the original timeline, Nianu never came to his home. He doubts this change is a coincidence. Back then, Nianu was the reason he and his sister survived 3 hellish years. Now, the debt must be paid. Fueled by gratitude and resolve, he sprints out of the pavilion. He is buzzing with adrenaline, inching closer to level 60. 12 hours later, Luya steps out of a level 35 dungeon, leveled up to 37. A teammate grins, awestruck by his raw power. The guy just solo cleared a 10-man raid. Another nods in agreement. Without Luya, they would have been wiped out. Hype is high, and they want another run, but Luya shuts it down. He has bigger fish to fry. Disappointed but hopeful, they beg for a friend request, making him promise to carry them next time. He smiles and scratches his neck, playing the nice guy. But back in the lobby, the smile vanishes. He clenches his fists as the reality sets in. A single run of a level 35 dungeon burns half a day, maybe more, and the experience yield barely half a level. The math is brutal. With 20 days left until the invasion, this pace caps him at level 50. Reaching 60 is mathematically impossible. Alone in the silence of the hall, he stares at his dungeon protector title. There is one other way. Sacrifice. If he feeds 9 teammates to the dungeon, he absorbs all the experience for himself. In his past life, they called those runs slaughterhouses. The players who ran them were known as gutter rats. If he takes this path, he becomes the monster he used to hate. But if it is the only way to survive, his moral dilemma is shattered by a ping. A system window flashes, an invitation, a level 40 expedition for a 10-man squad. He scans the sender's name and freezes. Shock melts into a savage joy. He shoots up from the bench. It is her. The woman who became the ultimate warlord in his previous life. Why invite him if he accepts? It is a golden ticket to power level. A confident smirk cuts across his face. She is with the New Order Guild. He never met her this early in the last timeline, which means this is a trap. His legs tremble for a split second, but his gaze hardens. Only the dungeon offers the growth he needs. Risk be damned. He hits accept. The roster loads up, levels 37 through 45. Scanning the list, Liu Ya smiles when he spots the target, Lin Fei. He flashed back to his past life to claim the ultimate reward from a desperate situation quest. He had to walk a bloody path by slaughtering every single one of his comrades to finish it solo. He could still hear the echoes of the global chat, his former teammates dragging his name through the mud, branding him a traitor. That girl, Cookie, same story, different font. She claimed she was just harassing other players, but when push came to shove, she wiped them all out. Self-defense, she called it. The rest of the squad wasn't any better. Every single one of them had a dark history, and Wai had handpicked this suicide squad personally. Liu Ya rubbed his chin, eyes narrowing. How did Wei dig up dirt on players like this? She knew exactly who and what they were. The party chat pinged as he joined. He didn't waste time on pleasantries. Everyone's here. Let's move. Wai dropped a waypoint on the map, but Lin Fei took one look at the new guy and immediately called out Wei's judgment. This is the ace you talked about, Lin Fei scoffed. He's only level 37. Wei shot back instantly. On this team, levels are irrelevant. Here, raw power is the only currency that matters. Liu Ya pulled up his interface. Most of the team was loitering in Muku City, but a few crazy souls were already deep in the out-of-control zone or heading straight for it. His face hardened. The out-of-control zone wasn't a playground. It was a death trap. Muku City was the hub, a massive resupply point divided into 5 distinct sectors. Inside the city walls, the dungeons were domesticated, modified for safety. You had your beginner runs and your standard challenges controlled, predictable. Then there was the special danger zone, reserved for adrenaline junkies looking to push their limits. The controlled danger zone was a different beast entirely heavily modified, with every monster magically sealed within the city limits. He'd run one of those dungeons before with Chicken Crown, but the chaos zone, that was pure fatality. Muku's authority barely reached there. Monsters over level 30 didn't stay in their lanes. They roamed freely outside the instances. But the out-of-control zone, that's where nightmares lived. Players dropped dead the second they stepped inside, hunted by roaming beasts level 70 and up. And then, the destruction zone, a lawless hellscape where the city system had zero influence. Dungeon bosses there couldn't be sealed. We're talking max level monsters with the power to wipe out everything in their path. Time jumps forward. Liu Ya is already deep in the out-of-control zone, closing in on the rendezvous point. He sprints through the dense forest when a blood-curdling scream rips through the air. He spins around, scanning the trees for the source. Suddenly, the forest comes alive. Monsters woven from twisted branches and razor-sharp leaves burst into the clearing. He dives behind a boulder, holding his breath. The creatures surge toward the stream, lashing out with vines as they move. Individually, they're weak, but a swarm like that deadly. Make one sound, and they'll crash down on you in endless waves. That scream, some rookie must have slipped up. A few seconds later, the forest falls dead silent again. Liu Ya peeks over the rock. The swarm has moved on. Whoever screamed is likely Monster Chow by now. He vaults over cover, knowing he can't stay put. He breaks for the meeting point, but movement flashes in his peripheral vision. Steel flashes, a spear tip hurtling straight for his throat. Reflexes kick in. He snatches the shaft mid-flight, leaning back as the lethal steel grazes his nose. The attacker rushes in from the shadows. The assailant grips the spear, twisting it for a follow-up thrust. Liu Ya sidesteps, barely evading the strike. He locks eyes with his attacker, burning with manic excitement. Liu Ya draws his katana in a flash. Counterattack. The enemy catches the blade on his spearhead, sparks flying as he blocks with both hands. Then, a grin spreads across his face. Boom! The clash sends a shockwave through the clearing, blasting dust and leaves into a whirlwind. Silence falls. The dust settles. It's Lin Fei, and he looks absolutely delighted with himself. He nods, finally understanding why the captain picked this guy. Liu Ya frowns, hand still tight on his hilt. Still grinning, Lin Fei admits defeat. Alright, you're stronger, but I think I've earned a little respect. Yeah. He points down the path. We better hustle to the rendezvous. Stick around here too long, and we'll be drowning in monsters. Without waiting for a reply, he vanishes into the trees. Only then does Liu Ya sheath his katana, watching the crazy lancer disappear. He had to admit the guy was strong, real strong, and if Wei was leading them, she must be a monster too. This team was stacked. Could they actually clear the desperate situation quest? Who knows, but the odds of dying a horrible death were sky high. He shakes it off and pushes forward. Finally arriving at the gathering spot, the squad is waiting. He steps toward the portal but pauses. A girl is perched on a rock nearby, watching him with a playful smile. She hops down, clapping her hands loudly. Alright, eyes on me, just a few words before we march to our doom. The protagonist glanced at his squad. He was one of them now, technically, though a part of him still felt like an outsider looking in. The captain broke the silence, warning them that the uncontrolled zone wasn't like standard raids down here. Chaos is the only constant. That's why rule number 1 is adaptation. As soon as they step inside, they need to figure out the dungeon's logic, no matter how twisted or bizarre it might be. He emphasized that panic is a death sentence. Rational discussion and cool heads are the only way they're walking out of this alive. The team nodded in agreement. The girl gave a sharp look of approval at their resolve before taking point, signaling it was time to breach the portal. But as the others marched forward, the protagonist faltered for a split second, the weight of his old doubts anchoring his feet. He dug into those emotions, realizing exactly when the seed of hesitation had been planted. It started the moment he met Wei. Standing next to the so-called strongest player made him question everything about his own potential. Was it insecurity, nerves, or just the crushing terror of knowing he might never reach their level? The fear of failing and watching all his hard work burn to ash was paralyzing. But he refused to let the darkness win. He cast his gaze up at the pale moon hanging over the forest, filled his lungs with cold air, and stepped forward. He was going to prove he belonged here. The moment they crossed the threshold, reality warped. Visions flooded their minds, playing out the dungeon's grim history. A porcelain doll wept, crying out that her playmate had abandoned her. Slumped against a wall in the background lay the woman who used to be her friend unconscious, or perhaps worse. The doll's voice dropped, stripped of all emotion. If she won't play, it stated, I'll find a new toy. Instantly, the vision shifted, revealing hallways choked with piles of bodies. The culprit stepped forward, a small, blood-soaked mechanical puppet. It yawned, complaining of boredom, reminiscing that its old companion was the only one who was truly fun. Now, with nothing left to break, it just wanted to go home. But the creature lowered its head, muttering a chilling realization going back was no longer an option. The vision snapped shut, depositing the players atop a massive circular tower. Dead center on a pedestal sat that same cursed, bloody doll. Etched into the base of the structure were words that sent a shiver down their spines. Hope and despair coexist. The squad was reeling, trying to make sense of the horror show they just witnessed. When one member voiced what everyone was thinking, what the hell kind of dungeon is this? Another teammate shook his head, admitting this was unlike any raid mechanics they had ever encountered. Stepping back from the portal, one player mused that this lethal unpredictability, the shifting maps, the twisted challenges is exactly what makes the meta world so terrifyingly addictive. Another grimly added that the worst part isn't the difficulty, it's knowing that some dungeons can't be cleared without paying the ultimate price. All eyes turned to the pedestal. The doll was the only anomaly here. It had to be the key to cracking this puzzle. But before anyone could make a move, the doll flickered and vanished into thin air. Simultaneously, a system alert screamed across their vision, dungeon entrance sealed. To escape, they had to clear the mission puppet's tricks. The objective was simple but brutal: destroy the doll. But there was a catch. The cursed puppet had materialized inside the inventory of one team member. The group's new objective: eliminate the carrier. The conditions were twisted. The dungeon clears if the puppet bearer survives for 6 hours. If the clock runs out, the mission fails. And the rules got darker. The puppet's owner can transfer the curse to another player, but only by killing one of their own allies. The protagonist's blood ran cold as he parsed the mission text. This wasn't a raid. It was a psychological torture chamber designed for players desperate enough to betray anyone for a payout. The fine print was the final nail in the coffin if the puppet is held by the sole survivor at the end. They are guaranteed the grand prize, a 100% win rate. Puppet assigned. The system announcement blared, and the countdown clock began to tick. Liuya's instinct was to immediately check his inventory, but his hand froze midair. Opening his menu now was a rookie mistake. He realized that making sudden movements while everyone was on edge would paint a target on his back. He had to wait. If he was the carrier, he'd face an impossible choice: confess and beg for mercy, or stay silent and become the enemy of the entire group. Going up against 2 high-tier fighters in a confined space, that wasn't a fight, it was a suicide mission. Paranoia swept through the room like a virus. Eyes darted side to side, assessing teammates that were friends just seconds ago. Liuya saw the shift. Everyone was terrified of the person standing next to them. Were they hiding the puppet, or were they just as scared as he was? A sharp clap pierced the tension. Wei stepped forward, commanding the room's attention. Liuya locked eyes with her. Wei wore a calm, almost predatory smile as she began to speak. Her solution was chillingly pragmatic, since they all knew the rules. Whoever held the puppet should just sacrifice themselves for the team. In exchange for their death, she promised their share of the loot would be distributed fairly. Wishy scans the group, her voice cutting through the tension. She asks if everyone without the cursed puppet in their inventory is on board with the plan. A murmur of agreement ripples through the crowd. The majority stands with her. Seizing the momentary distraction, Liuya spots an opening. While their eyes are fixed on her, he quietly summons his system interface and checks his inventory. His heart skips a beat. His eyes go wide. There, sitting innocently in his backpack slot, is the puppet. Bitterness rises in his throat. He just joined this team, and this is their welcome gift, a death sentence planted on him from the start. A frown deepens the lines on his forehead. He checks the screen one last time to be sure, then shifts his gaze to the other players. The objective has shifted. Survival now means taking out a teammate to pass the curse along. He needs to neutralize the threat, but the target remains unclear. Even if he tries to transfer the puppet peacefully, he'd be walking into a slaughter. Facing 2 high-level players with zero mercy is a suicide mission. Before he can plan, a voice rings out, asking if anyone wants to confess to holding the item. Liuya keeps his mouth shut, stone-faced. He lowers his eyes to hide his intent, but he's too slow. The team captain strides forward, stopping inches from his face. Smirking with arrogant confidence, the captain drops the act. He tells Liuya to stop pretending and admit he's the one holding the bag. The direct accusation jolts him, but Liuya recovers instantly. His expression hardens into a mask of cold seriousness. Before he can answer, a female player sneers, calling out his name. She accuses him of being an attention seeker and demands he speak up. Liuya stands rigid, saying nothing. He sweeps his gaze across the team, noticing the twisted, knowing smiles plastered on every single face. The subtle glances they exchanged earlier. It all clicks into place. Suspicion blooms into certainty. It wasn't a guess. Even without checking reactions, they had a method to confirm the puppet was in his possession all along. It's a setup. The whole team is in on it. Realizing the absurdity of it, a dry laugh escapes Liuya's lips. It's painfully obvious now. That out-of-the-blue invitation to join an elite squad, just a trap disguised as an opportunity. He doesn't know why this woman hates him, but the conclusion is inescapable. This dungeon run was designed for one purpose, his execution. The massive head count in the party, just insurance to make sure he stays dead. He locks eyes with the woman, analyzing her stats. Bad move. By dragging him into this dungeon, she hasn't trapped a victim. She signed her own death warrant. In this desperate game, there's only one winner, and the rewards belong to him. His grin widens as he accepts their challenge. The woman scoffs, calling him rude, though her arrogant veneer remains cracked. Liuya has proven he is strong, sure, but against the entire team combined on paper, he doesn't stand a chance. No more talk. Time to grind. The sooner they put him down, the sooner they can get back to power leveling. He nods, accepting the terms. Suddenly, Lin Fei shouts out, mocking him with an offer to defend himself before the end. It's just a game to him. He wants to savor the kill, to crush Liu Ya's hope piece by piece. Wishy covers her face with her hands, feigning horror. "Oh, we're being so cruel," she wails in a mocking tone. Then the hands drop, revealing a predatory grin. Her eyes sharpen as she sneers. "Don't make us do this, Liu Ya." Liu Ya doesn't blink. He swaps his gear instantly, equipping a pendulum. He raises the weapon, aiming straight for her heart. He pauses. Wishy notes the hesitation, assuming he's afraid to pull the trigger, afraid to make the wrong move. She thinks he's clueless, unaware that they're merely toying with him before the kill. Seeing the strange weapon, the team bursts into laughter, trading insults and mocking his gear choice. They scoff at his stupidity. A fool who attacks blindly stands zero chance against veterans like them. Lin Fei smirks, considering the intel. If they were warned about Liu Ya, surely he must have some special trick up his sleeve. Maybe. Just maybe. His attacks can imprison his enemies. The players cackle. He knows the metaverse meta. They jeer. Magic prisons are old news in this world. One ally chimes in, suggesting caution. "Hey, watch out. In the Met, traps are real." They call this technique the cage. Wishy laughs again, absolutely loving the drama. Liu Ya smiles back. Skill-activated capture. Wishy's grin is wiped from her face. She kicks off the ground, leaping backward to put meters between them. She frantically checks her avatar. No damage. She tries to mask the sudden spike of adrenaline, playing it cool. A shiver runs down her spine. She yells out to Lin Fei, "Stop playing around. Don't mess with him. The game is over." She realizes they need to mob him now and end this before it goes sideways. But Liu Ya just keeps smiling. His target wasn't her. Lin Fei is trapped inside the cage. He struggles against the invisible barrier, but the chains hold fast. The rest of the team freezes, gasps of shock echoing through the chamber. The hunter has just become the prey. Wei stared in total disbelief at the scene unfolding before her. In that split second, Liu Ya activated his special pistol ability, Lock Up. This technique offered a ruthless choice: stun the target, or triple the damage output. He didn't hesitate, he chose pure power. The system chimed immediately, consuming 100 knowledge points to fuel the strike. His next attack was primed to deal a devastating 5,000 damage. Eyes burning with cold determination, Liu Ya raised his weapon and leveled it straight at Lin Fei. He squeezed the trigger. The bullet screamed through the air, homing in on the immobilized player. The impact was catastrophic. The round tore through Lin Fei, blasting a massive hole in his stomach. His health bar vanished instantly, and his lifeless body hit the floor. The system roared Liu Ya had eliminated Lin Fei. The cryptic doll item instantly transferred to another survivor. But with the death of an intruder, Liu Ya's Dungeon Defender title triggered, boosting all his stats by 10%. To sweeten the kill, a rare pearl dropped into his inventory as a reward. The remaining team members froze, eyes wide with shock as they stared at their fallen comrade. Liu Ya, however, was already calculating his next move. He had been weighing the two worst-case scenarios that could lead to his demise. The first nightmare scenario facing the combined might of Wei and Lin Fei in a head-on collision. The second, even deadlier possibility, the emergence of a fourth unknown member with a wildcard power. But analyzing the battlefield, he realized the truth. Only Wei and Lin Fei had the strength to challenge him. The real danger had been option one all along. Their fatal mistake: arrogance. They had severely underestimated what he was capable of. Capitalizing on that error, he had taken Lin Fei off the board, shattering the synergy of their strongest duo. The threat level had plummeted. Now, it was just a cleanup operation. A sinister smile curled on his lips. Victory wasn't just possible, it was inevitable. Taking out Wei first would have been the optimal play, but she was slippery. She'd managed to evade his initial shot by a hair's breadth. Her high perception stat gave her supernatural reflexes, making her a nightmare in high-speed combat. Liu Ya's voice cut through the tension. Issuing a cold ultimatum to the survivors, the doll was now in the hands of one of their own. "Defend your friend now," he taunted, "or I destroy the doll and end your chance for revenge permanently." He knew they were rattled, but he couldn't get sloppy. To secure the dungeon's grand prize, he had to play this perfectly. Priority 1, identify the new carrier of the doll and ensure the item survived the slaughter. The enemy team captain cursed loudly, only to freeze mid-shout as the reality of the threat sank in. Sensing the lethal intent, she spun around, barking orders for the group to hold their formation. She knew exactly what Liu Ya was doing. He was hunting for the carrier. The nervous teammates instinctively tightened their circle around one player, trying to shield them from view. But the player in the center gave it away, terrified. She took a single, instinctive step backward. Liu Ya caught the motion instantly. He grinned. The sheer terror in her eyes confirmed everything he needed to know. She was trapped, completely surrounded by her own fear. No more waiting. He launched himself forward, activating a buff that surged his stats by 200%. He became a blur, charging straight for his prize. His objective was absolute eliminate anyone in the way. Katana in hand, he became a whirlwind of steel, cutting down players who dared to intercept him. Their resistance was paper thin. The system spammed notifications, 6 kills confirmed. His stats skyrocketed another 70%. He was becoming a monster. Some of his attributes now smashed past the 1,000 point barrier. Pearls, gear, and items flooded his inventory with every life he took. Witnessing the massacre, Wei snapped. She charged in a blind fury, dagger drawn, desperate to land a killing blow. Liu Ya was too fast. With a fluid flick of his wrist, his katana deflected her strike effortlessly. Behind the chaos, the player named Cookie collapsed to the ground, trembling so violently she couldn't even stand. The captain saw her fall and screamed. Cookie is still alive. She has the doll. It clicked. Liu Ya wasn't just killing, he was farming them for the dungeon reward. Stunned by his sheer audacity, the captain scoffed in disbelief. Liu Ya just smiled back, his eyes cold. Suddenly, the captain's boots flared with magical energy. Arcane Leap activated, propelling her sideways in a flash of light. You made a mistake targeting me, she hissed. Moving with blinding speed, she began to circle him, searching for an opening. Liu Ya kept his guard up, tracking her until blink she vanished completely from his line of sight. Before he could process it, Wei materialized directly behind him, dagger poised to kill, but he had anticipated it. He spun, swinging his katana in a lethal arc. Wei was faster. She dodged the blade, reappearing at his back again and slamming a heavy punch into him. She didn't let up. Unleashing a relentless barrage of attacks, she hammered him, draining Liu Ya's health bar into the critical zone. But it was a trap. Liu Ya activated his recovery skill, and his health bar instantly snapped back to full. He raised his blade over his stunned opponent, ready to end it. Wei Yi recoils in shock, announcing that her damage output hit 9,000 points, stripping away 75% of his total health in a single strike. Yet, she realizes she is facing a monster with absurd resilience. Their blades collide, steel screaming against steel with a deafening clang. Her confidence surges. Wei Yi declares that at this burn rate, he will drain his supply of healing potions long before the battle ends. Victory is all but guaranteed. But Liu Ya just smiles, unfazed. Wei Yi swaps her weapon in a blur of motion and launches a lightning-fast surprise attack. The impact is catastrophic, obliterating another 9,800 health points. But just like before, Liu Ya's health bar snaps back to full in the blink of an eye. Wei Yi freezes, her mind racing to process the impossible. She knows the mechanics. A level 30 instant recovery potion only restores 1,000 points, and players are capped at 10 vials per dungeon run. Yet, Liu Ya has already regenerated over 19,000 health points. The math doesn't add up. While she is distracted trying to solve this riddle, she completely misses Liu Ya's sudden surge forward. He closes the distance with a brutal punch, slamming into her with crushing force. Then, flashing a cocky grin, he offers a mock apology. Liu Ya declares with absolute certainty that he will be the only one walking out of here a winner. Wei Yi grits her teeth, narrowly evading his follow-up strike. She retreats instantly, putting distance between them until she lands right beside Cookie. A realization strikes her. With a health pool that massive, there is no doubt Liu Ya possesses rare support class skills. Liu Ya smirks, acknowledging her deduction. Wei Yi counters, revealing that unlike him, she dumped every single stat point into dexterity. Aside from her raw combat power, her speed has reached god tier levels, guaranteeing that almost every one of her attacks lands as a critical hit. For a split second, the playfulness vanishes from her face. She forces a strained smile, admitting the drawback. Her cognition stats are abysmal. leaving her completely drained of stamina. She knows she is cornered. The only card she has left to play is the nuclear option kill Cookie and forcefully end the confrontation right now. Luya instantly shifts to high alert. He realizes he might have pushed her too far, backing her into a corner where she is dangerous. Wei Yi is simply too fast to stop if she commits. If she really wanted to, she could have slaughtered Cookie hundreds of times before Luya could even twitch a muscle. But if she knows she cannot beat Luya, why the hesitation? Her actions do not match her threats. Luya demands to know what exactly she's waiting for. As long as Cookie is still breathing, this game is not over yet. Suddenly, a system notification pings stat enhancement complete. The pendulum and captivity skills have fully recharged. His eyes widen in triumph. Without wasting a millisecond, he aims his weapon at Wei Yi, ready to trigger his ultimate skill. But his body betrays him. He freezes mid-motion. Panic floods his mind as he tries to understand why he cannot move. Before he can process the betrayal, Cookie drives a fatal blow into his own team captain. Wei Yi looks at Luya, a cold, triumphant smile on her lips. The cruel truth unravels. Moments ago, Wei Yi ordered Cookie to strike her down and then take his own life, ensuring Luya could never achieve a valid victory condition. She bought his loyalty with the promise of double the rewards if he executed this suicide pact. And he obeyed perfectly. After striking her down, Cookie turns his blade on himself. Their avatars immediately begin to dissolve into data. Luya stands paralyzed, unable to comprehend the absolute madness unfolding before him. Wei Yi cackles maniacally as she fades away, hurling one last insult at Luya and declaring that he has lost. Silence falls as the dungeon empties. Luya stumbles back, his mind reeling, until his legs give out and he collapses to the cold floor. His thoughts are a chaotic storm. How I survive. He checks his inventory and his heart sinks. The quest doll has returned to his possession. The realization hits like a physical blow. The entire battle has been nullified. He cannot wrap his head around her motive. Did she really burn everything down just to deny him a win? It seems utterly insane. He clutches his head in despair. They are both dead, and now he is stuck with the doll. If Wei Yi hadn't pulled that suicide tactic, if he had just defeated her normally, the doll would have completed its journey safely in his inventory. But now, with no other players left alive, his only fate is to wait for the system to kill him. The chance to change his destiny has slipped through his fingers. He should have won. A guttural, desperate scream tears from his throat, echoing through the empty dungeon. Slowly, the silence returns, broken only by his ragged breathing. He lies there, staring into the void, trying to steady his racing heart. Staring at the stone ceiling, he mutters to himself, there has to be an escape. If all allies are dead, Yuan World would not simply design a game that ends in a softlock like this. There must be a failsafe, a hidden mechanic to bypass this stalemate. He scrambles to his feet, eyes darting around the chamber, determination hardening his resolve. He begins to scour the room for any sign of an exit. Reaching the edge of the platform, Luya extends a hand, and his fingers brush against something solid yet unseen. A barrier. He realizes with a jolt that he is trapped behind a transparent wall. Scanning his perimeter, he quickly deduced that the special dungeon's territory was confined entirely to the cylindrical platform beneath his feet. After a second sweep to confirm, he made his way toward the central pedestal, doll gripped firmly in hand. He mounted the stone structure, his senses heightened as he scrutinized every inch of the architecture. His gaze locked onto a weathered plaque bearing a cryptic inscription, "Hope and despair exist together." Leaning in, he spotted something else, a jagged, scratched marking etched just beneath the philosophical proverb. He drew closer, squinting to read the tiny, frantic lettering. Tracing the grooves with his fingertips, he deciphered the desperate message hidden in the stone. "I can't open the door." As his hand brushed against the carving, the slab suddenly shifted beneath his touch. The heavy, grinding sound of ancient machinery rumbling to life filled the air. An alert flashed before his eyes, the system confirming he had discovered the entrance to the Cutscene Research Institute. A holographic interface materialized, demanding a toll to breach the membrane, 1,000 cognition points. Luya scowled at the steep price. It was a fortune, especially considering his energy reserves were already drained from the lingering status effects. Despite his strength stat exceeding 500, the previous battle had left him scraping the bottom of the barrel with just over 1,000 cognition points remaining. Regenerating them in this barren void wouldn't be easy. He ran the numbers. By investing 700 points now to boost all his skills by 350, he could maximize his combat efficiency before paying the toll. That strategy would leave him with a surplus of over 300 points, a thin safety margin, but a margin nonetheless. Stepping into the unknown without full combat readiness was suicide. He made the call, and the system registered his preparation. A surge of power flooded him as his skills spiked by 350 points, draining the 700 cognition points from his pool. He poured the remaining 1,000 points into the barrier. Instantaneously, the stone pedestal shifted, transforming into a looming gateway. A violent gust of wind slammed into him, followed immediately by a male voice thundering his name from the void. The voice was frantic, laced with urgency, demanding he make an immediate decision between two diverging paths. Display what follows you, or dissolve and map everything. Liu Ya blinked, disorientation washing over him as he tried to grasp the abstract command. The disembodied voice screamed for an answer, warning that his computing power could only be activated if he chose right now. Liu Ya scrambled for logic amidst the chaos. What did these cryptic options actually mean, and what was the penalty for a wrong answer? He analyzed the meta context. If this was a fixed system test, it implied they were standing on the precipice of a catastrophic event. The variable here was computing power. That was the key. Was displaying the power a means of personal survival, or was it a utility, a tool to navigate the coming apocalypse? He searched his memories of his past life, but came up empty. He had never survived long enough to face a dilemma of this magnitude before. If his priority was keeping himself and his sister alive, the logical play was to choose display what follows you. But if the only way to endure the catastrophe was to utilize an external resource, then dissolve and map everything was the safer bet. Liu Ya understood one thing clearly: if the disaster was inevitable, the only way forward was to be armed with the consequences of his choice. There was also the possibility that mapping the power was a selection process, a way to identify individuals with specific traits. But in this game of shadows, certainty was a luxury he didn't have. Logic dictated he needed to ensure the forgotten ones had access to perfect computing power. After all, only a handful possessed the imagination characteristic required to return. Without the emergence of the first world, the player base would never have evolved to their current level of power. Conviction settled in. Believing this to be the optimal path, Liu Ya selected dissolve and map everything. The moment he confirmed, sparks erupted in his vision. He held his breath, bracing for the transition. But as the light faded, reality refused to shift. He was standing in the exact same spot. He stood frozen for a beat, then scowled as he scanned the unchanged room. The verdict was silent but clear: he had chosen wrong. Liu Ya sank to the floor, crossing his arms in frustration. Was the answer really as simple as revealing his pursuer? He checked his status, only 350 cognition points left. The parasite inhabiting his body kept him in a perpetual in-combat state, strangling his passive recovery rates to a crawl. Still, with 5 hours on the clock, he could grind his way back to 1,000 points for a second attempt. That would have to be enough. It was a waiting game now. He closed his eyes, forcing patience. 90 minutes later, the system pinged he had regenerated 700 points. Eyes snapping open. He wasted no time. He dumped the 1,000 points into the membrane to trigger the sequence again. The scenario reset. The same urgency, the same two options: display who was following, or dissolve and map everything. Liu Ya raised his hand to select the first option this time, but his finger hovered inches from the interface. If this was a true test of intellect, why did it feel so binary? Why couldn't he enter the institute by simply clicking the correct button? Something was wrong. If that door remained shut, the puppet would be forever barred from the place it called home. Something felt off. Was he lacking the necessary knowledge power, or did this puzzle require a specific character trait? The lore hinted that the puppet had stormed out in a fit of stubbornness. Now it wanted back in, but the door refused to budge. What if it wasn't about making the correct choice, but showing the right attitude? Liu Ya frowned, weighing the odds, trusting his gut. He doubled down and selected the second option again. He stepped onto the platform. Silence. Nothing changed. He was down to his final attempt. One wrong move meant another agonizing wait. Yet, his confidence didn't waver. He sat and waited. 90 minutes passed, leaving only 27 minutes on the clock. A glance at his stats showed 700 cognition points banked. Liu Ya opened his eyes, burned the remaining points, and surged power into the membrane. This time, the moment he picked the second option, he scrambled back as the floor began to quake. He leaped to safety, watching the pedestal sink into the ground. A grin stretched across his face. He roared into the empty hall. I did it. The true gauntlet was finally over. The test wasn't about logic, it was about conviction. The door only yielded to someone stubborn enough to make the same choice 3 times in a row. A dark staircase rumbled open before him, spiraling into the depths. Staring at the Institute's hidden entrance, he realized this secret level was designed for a full squad, not a solo player. Descending the steps, the magnitude of his feat hit him. To crack this alone, he'd had to max out his skills, rely on pure wit, and trigger a specific counter mechanic. Without those precise upgrades, that door would have stayed sealed forever. He was the only one with access to this hidden zone. Liu Ya knew his caution had paid off. Desperation often breeds recklessness, but there's a fine line between being bold and being stupid. If he'd known how volatile his team was from the start, he could have prevented the cascade of errors that got everyone killed. The stairs dumped him into a long, sterile corridor bathed in light. At the far end stood a door, guarded by a blood-soaked corpse. As he approached, he realized the body belonged to a woman. Suddenly, a brilliant sphere of light manifested in the air. Liu Ya looked down, startled, as the orb detached from his own chest, drifted over, and fused with the lifeless body. The system chimed, Evil Doll purified. His reward, 1% of the membrane's total computing power. A heavy sigh of relief escaped his lips. Another notification flashed, Achievement unlocked, desperate situation. The rewards began cascading in as the system reconfigured his stats. Overwhelmed, Liu Ya's knees buckled. He leaned against the cold wall, sliding his weapon back into inventory as the adrenaline crashed. His legs wouldn't stop trembling. He chuckled weakly, realizing for the first time just how terrified of dying he'd actually been. He buried his face in his hands, ashamed of the fear. Then, the chime sounded again, configuration complete. 22,464 experience points, 400 coins, level up to 44, max HP boosted to 3,720, knowledge power hit 846. His combat power surged to 898, 2 new skills unlocked. Status lock, freezes the target's HP and locks their knowledge power. Duration increases by 1 second for every 10 levels. Skill synergy, applies all skill effects to the target for 10 minutes. Costs 50 cognition points. Duration extends by 10 seconds every 10 levels. Liu Ya clenched his fists, the thrill electric in his veins. He could barely grasp the magnitude of what he'd pulled off. He thought his victory was just beating Wei Yi, but he had conquered something far deadlier. He leaped into the air, laughing like a madman as the dungeon dissolved into light around him. Elsewhere, his sister and her friend had just mastered their weapon arts, exchanging satisfied nods. Back at the resurrection point, Wei Yi waited. 6 hours had dragged by since she last saw Liu Ya, and there was still no sign of him. She crossed her arms, anxiety gnawing at her. A message from Blazing Fire popped up. What happened? Wei Yi typed a blunt reply. Someone died. Blazing Fire immediately shot back. Did Liu Ya kill them? No, she clarified. I'm the one who died. Silence hung heavy on the other end. After a pause, she added, but I got the intel. Blazing Fire asked for his next move. Set up a match for me in the Mirror Realm, she ordered. I need to farm a mirror copy to restore my level. Blazing Fire agreed. Then she dropped the bombshell. Liu Ya is the one you want. He has a unique support power. In the guild hall, Blazing Fire stared at the message, a deep frown carving lines into his forehead. The stranger across the table leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. He knew exactly how scarce support types were, and he was offering his services for the chaos of the uncontrolled zone. This guy went by the handle Ouija, level 45, a brawler who preferred bare-knuckle violence over steel, yet somehow he wielded the coveted power of a support. He swore he could get the job done, but his assistance carried a hefty price tag, 10,000 coins. The guild leader didn't even blink, flashing a sly grin as he agreed to the terms. Deal sealed. Ouija strode out of the New Order headquarters, where his partner was already pacing nervously, waiting for the verdict. Seeing him emerge, the friend rushed over, practically vibrating with hype. They had scoured the entire network, desperate to track down the elusive holder of the support ability. But Ouija wasn't celebrating. With a snarl of frustration, he lashed out, kicking a nearby street lamp hard enough to make his friend flinch in terror. He took a breath, forcing the rage down, and muttered that the arrangements were made. The trap was set. His partner cheered, calling it the first step of their master plan, but then paused, confused by the aggression. Ouija crouched down, screaming in pure fury he was supposed to be the only support player in existence. Now, everything had changed. If they wanted to seize control of the New Order and rise to the top, they had to completely rewrite their strategy. Meanwhile, miles away from the scheming, Luya sat alone in his room, staring intensely at a scribbled notepad. His mind wrestled with the concept of hash power authority, the literal key to commandeering the output of the system's massive computing engine. Was the reward for upgrading the special dungeon just an appetizer, or was it the breadcrumb trail to a much deeper, darker quest line? He questioned what would trigger once the computing power hit 100%. How did the hash power permission tie into the ultimate test? He rubbed his nose, feeling the heavy weight of exhaustion dragging at his eyelids, but he couldn't stop, not now. His entire future hung in the balance. Finally, he forced himself to stand, deciding a hot shower was the only way to reset his brain before diving back into the simulation. He cracked the door open and froze. Nanshu was just stepping out of the bathroom, a towel casually draped over her wet hair. She paused, catching his eye, and offered a friendly wave. Luya managed a polite smile in return, shuffling past her toward the shower. But just before he slipped inside, he couldn't resist a quick glance back. It hit him then. The apartment always smelled sweeter when she was around. Heat rushed to his face, and he awkwardly scratched his cheek, flustered by his own thoughts. He slapped his own cheeks hard. What the hell was he doing? There was no time for distractions. He had to get back in the game and lock in his next objective. A short while later, he was logged in, standing amidst the clamor of the pavilion, the hub for crafting and trading high-tier gear. He pulled up his status at the terminal. Level 44. To hit the critical milestone of level 60, he needed 16 more levels. The math was brutal. He'd need to clear the special dungeon 32 times. At his current pace, that was a 20-day grind. But the Yuan World would merge with reality in just 22 days. The margin for error was razor thin. One slip up, and he wouldn't make it. To make matters worse, his loadout was garbage. There were only 2 ways to secure the metal and gear he needed. Option 1, pay cold hard coins. Option 2, grind endlessly to upgrade low-tier trash. He checked his wallet, 11,021 coins. 6,750 of those were hard-earned rewards from the dungeon runs. The rest came from scrapping useless loot. The system prompt flashed, create 40 purple tier items for 650 coins each, then upgrade them from level 30 to 40 for another 400 a pop. He ran the numbers. He was still missing a helmet, a necklace, and an emblem. Combining the materials with the remaining 40 items would drain 5,550 coins. The interface buzzed. Estimated time to upgrade purple equipment 100 seconds. Luya did the final calculation and his heart sank. To hit level 60, he needed 16,029 coins. That meant running the dungeon 40 more times. He crossed his arms, the reality settling in. Playing it safe wouldn't cut it. If he wanted to survive, he had to gamble and hunt for bonus rewards. But who was the target? Suddenly, a notification chime pierced the air, grabbing his full attention. His finger hovered over the icon. A knot of anxiety tightened in his stomach. In this world, unexpected messages were rarely good news. He commanded the system to open it. It was a private DM from the guild leader of the New Order. The text was brief. "Are you free? We need to talk." Luya stared in disbelief. In his past life, these people had tossed him aside like garbage, sneering that weaklings had no place in their ranks. After the New Order established their dominance in the Middle World, they had conquered the entire southern region of China, becoming the undisputed strongest guild on Earth. Their philosophy was simple: only the elite deserved to exist. If you had talent, they owned you. Your life was theirs. But if you were a low-level nobody, they treated you like dirt, crushing you beneath their boots. Luya had died once already. It was impossible not to hate them with every fiber of his being. He frowned at the screen, memories of his past weakness flooding back. Why now? The message from Blazing Fire continued. They were building a Spec Ops team for the uncontrolled zone, but they were short on manpower. Word had gotten out that Liu Ya possessed support abilities. The tyrants who once scorned him were now begging him to join. If he has demands, he should list them now so they can strike a deal. Liu Ya cut to the chase. Were they specifically hunting for a support player? Blazing Fire confirmed it with a nod, sending a sudden ripple of nervous tension through Liu Ya. The message followed immediately. In other words, we are the strongest team in this world. But why risk everything in an uncontrolled zone? I have my reasons. Blazing Fire replied vaguely. Liu Ya played it cool, telling him he'd chew on it and send a reply later. Left alone with his thoughts, the weight of the choice pressed down on him. Should he really take this gamble? Sure, this squad nearly cost him his madness rewards earlier, but the grinding speed accumulating experience and coins with them was exponentially faster than running with a random crew. But there was a catch. You couldn't just warp straight into the secret territory using the market's transfer gate, and the place was crawling with monsters leveled 70 and above. He pushed the anxiety aside. Priority 1 was upgrading his gear. The system pinged with an alert. Crafting purple tier equipment required 650 coins. The upgrade finished in a flash. His stats skyrocketed, attack power hit 9,900, defense climbed to 716, and intelligence locked in at 678. His health pool swelled to 6,030, while his cognitive power registered at 234. His total combat power, 102. Breaking the triple-digit barrier triggered an immediate promotion. He was now officially a supreme space hunter. The perks kicked in instantly, shifting his attribute level from +1 to +2. The numbers went berserk. Attack shattered the 10k mark to hit 11,400. Defense rose to 892, resistance to 159, and health topped out at 8,040. Liu Ya stared at the glowing interface, grinning. This was the Rush Raw combat strength granting insane statistical boosts. Breaking past 100 attributes wasn't just a number, it unlocked a passive 30% amplification to his total strength. If he kept pushing his combat rating, every other attribute would eventually follow suit. The potential was limitless. But what was the cost? 200 1,000. Suddenly, a dark thought struck him, wiping the smile off his face. He had assumed the Battle Force system was his personal edge. But if he could access this power, who's to say the others couldn't? Especially that elite squad, led by the New Order's president. A single member of that team was worth 10 average hunters. Still, with his clones in play, the uncontrolled zone wasn't a death sentence. It was a viable opportunity. Decision made. Liu Ya messaged Blazing Fire. I'm in. Count me on the roster. The reply was instant. Smart choice. Blazing Fire assured him they already had a support player, so Liu Ya wouldn't be left out to dry. Then came the kicker. Blazing Fire threw in a 100 coin signing bonus just for joining. Liu Ya blinked at the screen, stunned. Why throw free money around like that? The guy was obviously loaded, but tossing coins like they were pocket lint was a whole different level of wealth. Whatever. Even if there was a hidden agenda, Liu Ya figured he might as well take the cash. A man's gotta eat. He relayed the confirmation, and the New Order's president gave the green light immediately. No issues. Done deal. Liu Ya accepted the official invite without hesitation. He was now part of the team. A notification pinged in the general chat. Everyone welcomed the new blood. A guy named Wuji chimed in first, curious if Liu Ya was the second support main. Pleasantries were exchanged, and the rendezvous was set north gate. Before heading out, Liu Ya grabbed a simple knife, weighing it in his hand. Time to play it smart. He disabled his high-tier headgear stats and equipped the common weapon. If things went sideways, he needed a backup plan that didn't reveal his full hand. Better to keep the blade concealed. The element of surprise was his best defense. The unknown was the biggest threat here. Arriving at the north gate, he scanned the party interface to check the levels. Most of them were stacked at level 50, barring the 2 support players. Up ahead, a crowd was forming. Blazing Fire stood in the center, arms crossed, wearing a face that screamed irritation. All eyes shifted to Liu Ya as he approached. Wuji spotted him first, beaming and waving excitedly like they were old friends. Liu Ya walked over, dropping a quick intro. Wuji just kept smiling, returning the greeting warmly. Blazing Fire finally spoke, cutting through the noise. Never seen a support user before. Now I've got 2 of you staring at me. Before we hit the uncontrolled zone, he added, there's something you all need to see. Liu Ya studied him closely. The arrogance, the gear, The probability that this guy was the president of the New Order was climbing. And if that hunch was right, Liu Ya was standing in the shadow of one of the world's absolute heavyweights. New recruits need to prove their worth, the president announced. The supports locked eyes. Wuji didn't hesitate. He stepped up first. Meanwhile, Liu Ya stood there scratching the back of his neck, looking completely out of the loop. It felt redundant to prove his worth when the invitation was already in his hand. But the team demanded reassurance, a reason to trust these newcomers with their lives. Liu Ye nodded, accepting the terms of the trial. Wuji stepped up to Blazing Fire first, ready to break down the mechanics of his power. He explained that his ability's range wasn't static, it was tethered to the weapon he wielded. Raising a gloved hand, he demonstrated the limit. His effective reach was a tight circle of 1 to 2 meters. Beyond that boundary, his magic was useless. Blazing Fire caught on instantly. The gear dictated the range. Simple, logical, but for Liu Ye, this was a cold splash of reality. If Wuji's gloves restricted him to melee range, and he himself relied on a pistol, what was his actual limit? He had never even bothered to calculate it. His powers had always just worked on instinct. Now, a spike of anxiety hit him. Was he flying blind? While Liu Ye spiraled in his thoughts, Wuji launched his showcase. First, he triggered a standard recovery skill. Then came the second technique mantra, a nasty cocktail of debuffs, weakening, aging, and slowing designed to cripple even a boss monster. For his third trick, he unleashed silence. Magical chains instantly binding the hands of the New Order's president. Total lockdown. He announced that this silence could restrain any enemy, regardless of their rank. As for his fourth skill, Wuji smirked. That was his ace in the hole, saved strictly for life or death scenarios. Blazing Fire watched the display, a satisfied grin spreading across his face. He had found a gem. Watching from the sidelines, Liu Ye decided to play the same game, reveal 3 cards, keep the 4th hidden. He stepped into the spotlight, brandishing a blade, his effective range, 3 meters, already outclassing Wuji. He mirrored the demonstration recovery first, followed by his second skill blessing. Then, the crowd controller prison. He cast it on the president, freezing the man solid in an instant. He dropped the spell quickly. It lasts about 10 seconds, Liu Ye explained, though I wouldn't bet my life on it holding a boss. He added that his blessing was a universal cure, capable of purging any negative status including his own prison. And just like his rival, he kept his 4th ability locked away in the dark. As he finished, he locked eyes with Wuji. He could see it clearly, the glint of arrogant confidence in the other player's stare. Blazing Fire soaked it all in. 2 top-tier supports. I've seen enough, he declared. Move out. He turned to address the squad, his voice dropping an octave. We've been stuck skirting the edges of the uncontrolled zone because we lack supports. But with these 2, we're done playing it safe. We are going deep to uncover the secrets of this place. The team roared their approval, fists pumping the air as they marched out, but Liu Ye hung back, his mind racing. The loot in the Chaos Zone and the Uncontrolled Zone was identical. Why risk it? The danger level here was off the charts. What made this hellhole so special? Why was the president so obsessed with this place? There had to be something else, something hidden waiting for them. He was so lost in thought he didn't realize he'd stopped moving until Wuji waved him down. Liu Ye snapped out of it, flashing a fake smile as he jogged to catch up with the group. But as he walked, his expression went cold. This team wasn't big enough for 2 supports. It was only a matter of time. Wuji had to be eliminated. And when that happened, Liu Ye would be the only king on the board. They arrived at the gateway to the Uncontrolled Zone, staring into the abyss of a decaying world. Skeletal skyscrapers pierced the smog, a graveyard of concrete and steel that screamed danger. The captain took point, briefing them on the nightmare rules of this specific zone. Here, the difficulty scales with the head count. We are a 10-man squad, That's the bare minimum entry, but the system treats us like an army of 80. The odds are rigged against us. Stay sharp, don't be a hero, and remember killing monsters here gets you 0 XP, 0 loot. If you see a beast, your priority is to hide, immediately. If you can't hide, you distract it. And if someone has to die so the rest can live, well, that is just the cost of doing business. A heavy silence crushed the team. No time for second thoughts. The captain launches himself off the edge, plummeting toward the ruins below. The squad doesn't hesitate. One by one, they dive into the abyss after him. Liu Ya holds back for a split second, crouching to scan the desolate landscape, before pushing off the ledge to join the descent. Shadows swallow him as he falls. The moment his boots hit the cracked concrete, he snaps his gaze upward. A jagged bolt of lightning tears through the sky, revealing the skeletal remains of the city. He spots his teammates, but his blood runs cold. There's something else. A beast, perched high atop a crumbling skyscraper. It spots them. A bone-rattling roar shakes the air. Liu Ya frowns, his mind racing to calculate their odds. Blazing Fire stays ice cold. He barks an order for the stealth users to cloak immediately, and the team scatters, scrambling for cover. Too late. The instant they move, the beast launches itself from the roof, hungry for blood. But before it can land a hit, a massive shadow erupts from the gloom, snatching the monster midair with crushing force. The prey screams as the larger predator crushes it in a single fist, then hurls the broken body off the roof like trash. The new nightmare doesn't pause. It sets its sights on the group and charges. A player hears heavy thuds behind him and glances back. His face drains of color. It is colossal. He screams a warning to the president of the New Order. It is a man-eating leopard, and it is hunting them. This was supposed to be a routine recon mission in the uncontrolled zone. In seconds, it has turned into a catastrophe. Blazing Fire holds the line. Don't panic, he commands, ordering everyone to evade and avoid a direct clash at all costs. They sprint into a narrow alley, desperate to lose the tail. Wuji, panting, questions just how dangerous this thing really is. A guild member shouts the grim reality. We sent 10 squads here before for intel. 5 of them were completely annihilated by a single one of these beasts. Wuji scoffs, unconvinced by the horror story. Meanwhile, the predator anticipates their path. It doesn't chase, it intercepts. The monster smashes through a concrete wall, cutting off their escape. Trapped at the alley's end, Blazing Fire makes a snap decision. He yells at the blindfolded member, distract it now. The player skids to a halt and activates his taunt skill instantly. It is a gamble. For 1 minute, the leopard's speed drops by 10%, but its attack power skyrockets in exchange. It works. The beast slams on the brakes, locking its murderous gaze solely on the taunter. The bait breaks away from the group, sprinting in the opposite direction to draw the monster away. Wuji watches the chaos, his eyes narrowing. He sees an opportunity in the madness. He shifts his focus to Liu Ya, his expression darkening into something sinister. Without a shred of remorse, he raises a hand and casts Mark of the Prey. Instantly, Liu Ya becomes a beacon to every monster within a 1,000-meter radius. The death sentence will last for exactly 10 minutes. The effect is immediate. Every beast in the sector snaps its head toward Liu Ya. Even the man-eating leopard abandons the taunter, freezing in its tracks. The blindfolded player stumbles, confused. What the hell? Why did it stop chasing me? Liu Ya keeps sprinting, completely unaware that he just became the most wanted man in the city. Suddenly, a shadow lunges. Liu Ya tries to grapple, but the sheer force of the impact knocks him off his feet. He is hurled violently against a concrete wall. The sickening thud makes the rest of the team skid to a halt and look back. Gasps of horror ripple through the squad. It is a swarm. Monsters are pouring in from every alley, converging on Liu Ya. The team is baffled. Why is the entire horde ignoring them to target him? Amidst the flames, Liu Ya looks up. His eyes lock onto Wuji across the distance. Wuji is smiling, a cruel, triumphant smirk that says everything. Liu Ya realizes exactly what has been done to him. Blazing Fire doesn't think. He orders the team to retreat to the shelter and sprints back into the fray to save Liu Ya. His teammates scream after him, stunned by his reckless heroism. Wuji shakes his head. The captain has lost his mind. Going back there is suicide. He turns to the others, voice cold. Let him go. Liu Ya is dead weight now. A player starts to argue, but the terrifying sound of crushing masonry silences him. The leopard is back. The taunt has worn off. With death closing in, the group has no choice. They abandon the captain and run for the shelter. Blazing Fire sprinted across the battlefield toward Liu Ya, his eyes glued to the party interface as he watched the health bars flicker. Don't you dare die on me! He roared internally. Suddenly, a shadow lunged from the periphery. Blazing Fire caught the movement and ripped his sword from its sheath in a panic. With a fluid, desperate motion, he slashed at the creature's chest, aiming to cleave it in two. Clang! The blade bounced off harmlessly. He stared in shock, realizing the hide on these monsters wasn't just tough, it was nearly impenetrable. The beast countered instantly with a vicious swipe of its claws. Blazing Fire managed to bring his guard up, but the impact sent him skidding backward, teeth clenched against the force. Forced to give ground, he looked on in horror as a literal sea of monsters swallowed Liu Ya whole. The sheer density of the mob was suffocating. It felt like a lost cause, but just as despair began to set in, a strange detail snagged his attention. Deep within the crushing pile of beasts, Liu Ya was still moving. The monsters had him pinned by his limbs, but he hadn't stopped fighting. Liu Ya triggered his freezing ability directly on his own body. A system ping confirmed. Cognition power consumption 0. His HP hovered at 5,036 out of 8,040. He was hurting, but alive. The timer on his freedom status showed 10 seconds remaining. No time to waste. Liu Ya instantly cast Blessing. He dumped every single point of cognition power he had, spiking his attributes by 146. His stats shattered the 1,000 mark, with some skyrocketing past 6,000. A golden aura of the blessing surged through his veins, instantly purging the mark's debuff. His grip tightened around the katana's hilt. The system flashed a new update energy levels at 2,712. Attack power boosted by 50%. In one blur of motion, Liu Ya swung. The shockwave decimated the surrounding mob, slicing every single monster in range into ribbons instantly. But the boss wasn't done. The man-eating leopard launched its assault. The predator bulldozed past Blazing Fire, smashing through walls like they were paper. Liu Ya clocked the threat, snatching the beast's claw out of the air at the very last second. He slid backward, boots carving trenches in the floor, but he didn't buckle. Instead, he switched tactics on the fly. Despawning the katana, he quick-swapped to the pendulum pistol, toggled the stun effect, and leveled the barrel right between the monster's eyes. The second the beast tensed to strike, he squeezed the trigger. Bang! A perfect point-blank headshot. Capitalizing on the stun, he swapped again to a standard firearm and unloaded the entire clip. A hail of bullets shredded the leopard's hide until it finally gave out, collapsing to the floor with a heavy, lifeless thud. Liu Ya hopped onto the fresh carcass, scanning the room with the swagger of a king. As the boss monster's body began to dissolve into data particles beneath his feet, Blazing Fire stood frozen, watching the spectacle with his jaw on the floor. "You liar," he whispered, voice trembling. "Since when does a support class hit like a truck?" The system warned, blessing effect ends in 50 seconds. Snapping into action, Liu Ya sprinted toward the stunned guild president. "We're leaving," he barked, grabbing the man. "Now." He took off running. Blazing Fire, spotting a fresh pack of mobs closing in, shook off his paralysis and scrambled to catch up. "Hey, wait for me!" he screamed, trailing behind. Meanwhile, back at the shelter, the rest of the team huddled nervously at the dungeon entrance. "Any updates?" one member muttered. "The president's radio silence is freaking me out." "He's not messaging back," another added darkly. "Probably thinks if he ignores us, he won't have to admit he's dead." Wuji scowled. "Why are we even waiting? Nobody survives that kind of aggro. We should just bail." "Hold on," a team member interjected, checking the party status. "They're still green. The president and Liu Ya are alive. Their health isn't dropping. Must be damage blocking skills. But man, Liu Ya has the worst luck I've ever seen. I don't know what he did, but he pulled every monster in the dungeon. That's usually a death sentence." "We're in deep trouble," the man sighed, crossing his arms and grinding his teeth in sheer frustration. Suddenly, someone pointed at the radar. "Contact. I've got pings near the shelter." Wuji blinked in disbelief, while the rest of the squad erupted in hopeful murmurs. "Heads up," one shouted, adrenaline spiking. "If they're coming in hot, they're bringing a train of mobs with them." Defensive positions. The team formed a phalanx at the entrance, weapons raised. "Strange," one whispered. "I don't hear any fighting." A moment later, the guild president strolled in, safe and sound, with Liu Ya right beside him. The team let out a collective breath of relief. Only Wuji remained tense, eyeing the pair with deep suspicion. He viewed the president as a liability. But around him, the other players were already swarming Blazing Fire with praise. "You're a legend? Boss," they cheered. "Navigated that hellhole and saved the support player. You really earned that rank." Blazing Fire didn't say a word. He just stood there, staring at Liu Ya's retreating back, knowing exactly who the real monster was. Stepping away from the main group, The pair retreats to the shadows of the shelter, settling onto rough concrete slabs. The guild president cuts straight to the chase, his voice slicing through the quiet, no time for idle chit-chat or fake pleasantries. The plan is simple: catch a breath, then raid the dungeon. The squad nods in agreement, adrenaline already pumping, but Wuji's focus is elsewhere. His eyes lock onto Liu Ya, who sits there, unreadable and stone-faced. Curiosity piqued, Wuji slides up next to him, plastering a plastic smile on his face. "So," he asks, voice dripping with faux concern, "how exactly did you make it out alive?" He acts like he's expecting a thrilling war story, but Liu Ya just stares off into the distance, his mind flashing back to that critical moment when the system shattered the tracker spell. Liu Ya doesn't blink. "You tell me," he counters coldly. "You know exactly how I survived. After all, you set the trap." A shiver runs down Wuji's spine. He flinches, laughing it off with a dismissive wave, desperately trying to keep his cool. "Whoa, relax. What are you even talking about?" Liu Ya's gaze bores into him. "Don't play dumb. It doesn't suit you." He lays it out plain and simple. The blessing skill doesn't just heal, it purges status effects, including that little mark Wuji planted on him. Wuji's eyes nearly pop out of his skull. Liu Ya drives the nail in deeper. That tracking mark is a level 40 skill. In this entire squad, only 2 people have that kind of juice. The air turns ice cold. Before Wuji can stammer a denial, Liu Ya pulls a handgun, the barrel gleaming in the dim light. His face is a mask of indifference. He admits he's been thinking about putting a bullet in Wuji since the moment they walked in, but their little chat just now confirmed everything. Wuji's hesitation wasn't fear, it was calculation. Liu Ya rises slowly, leveling the muzzle straight at Wuji's forehead. "There's only one way this ends," Liu Ya declares, his voice steady as a heartbeat. Wuji freezes, paralyzed by the lethal intent. Suddenly, Wuji snaps, screaming in outrage. "Are you insane?" he howls, acting the victim. "We're teammates. Put that thing away." The commotion snaps the rest of the team to attention, confusion rippling through the ranks, but hidden from their view. Wuji's panic shifts into a cynical, twisted smirk. Oh, the irony. Liu Ya is trying to play the action hero, threatening him with a gun like some B-movie vigilante. Perfect. This outburst is exactly what Wuji needs to paint a target on Liu Ya's back and isolate him from the pack. Liu Ya has the logic if the mark is level 40. The culprit is obvious, but logic doesn't matter if everyone thinks he's a psycho with a gun. "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?" one of the players shouts, stepping up to defend Wuji, but Blazing Fire doesn't move a muscle, sitting like a statue while Liu Ya keeps his aim steady. A faint, mocking smile plays on Wuji's lips as he thumps his chest, ramping up the drama. "I just asked how he survived." Wuji pleads to the crowd. Friendly conversation, and suddenly I'm staring down the barrel of a gun. He spins toward the president, face twisted in righteous indignation. "President, are you seeing this? Is this how we treat our own?" Blazing Fire stays silent, unreadable. Wuji presses the advantage, spitting venom. "He wants me dead because I'm competition. He can't handle another support class stealing his glory. Take me out, and he's the only one you can rely on. It's a power play." He paints a nightmare scenario, Liu Ya holding the team hostage, dictating terms, forcing the president to bow down just to clear the dungeon. "It's wrong," Wuji screams, scanning the faces of the team, demanding they wake up to the threat. He points an accusing finger, desperate to brand Liu Ya as a toxic liability that needs to be cut loose immediately. Through all the theatrics, Liu Ya remains perfectly calm. He sees right through the performance. Wuji is the rot at the core of this team, and he knows it. Wuji whirls back to the leader. "You have to kick him out now before he kills us all." A nervous teammate steps in, hands raised. "Guys, maybe we cool off, save the drama for when we're safe." But Blazing Fire rises, a heavy hand clamping onto the peacemaker's shoulder. He stops him cold. The look in his eyes says it all. This ends here, and it ends now. Wuji's stomach drops. Something is wrong. The president isn't reacting the way he should. The president strides forward, reaches out, and firmly grips the barrel of Liu Ya's gun, forcing him to lower the weapon. But his eyes aren't on Liu Ya. He turns a glare of pure, molten fury onto Wuji. "Explain yourself," he growls. Wuji falters, the script flipping in an instant. Before Wuji can stutter a defense, a massive hand clamps around his throat, The president hoists him up like a rag doll. Why? The word comes out like a gunshot. Why are you so desperate to tear this team apart? Oxygen cuts off. Wuji claws at the iron grip, shocked by the sheer, monstrous strength of the man. Gasping, gagging, he grits his teeth. What are you doing? He wheezes. Blazing fire doesn't loosen his grip. I trust Liu Ya, he states, voice vibrating with absolute conviction, more than a snake like you could ever understand. Wuji's eyes bulge. You're making a mistake. He tries to point out the obvious. Liu Ya drew the gun. Liu Ya is the aggressor, but his pleas fall on deaf ears. The air begins to warp as the president channels his mana. Liu Ya doesn't draw a weapon without a damn good reason, he declares, sentencing Wuji on the spot. Wuji's world shatters. The blind trust. The absolute loyalty. He never calculated for this. It's not fair. He screams internally. He played the game. He manipulated the pieces. He shouldn't be losing. He opens his mouth to scream, but it's too late. The shadow blood shell activates. A thick, viscous crimson sphere erupts from the president's hand, swallowing Wuji whole, entombing him in a prison of living blood. The seal locks his body tight, and his health bar begins to tick down fast. Desperately, he attempts to trigger a recovery skill, but the system denies him, locked out. As his vitality bleeds away, pure panic sets in for Wuji. He staggers forward, lunging at Liu Ya in a final, frantic attempt to take him down, clutching at his throat. His eyes bulge with sheer terror. His breath comes in ragged gasps. Then, nothing. He freezes. The final breath leaves his lungs with a death rattle. Strength gone, he collapses to his knees. Health hits zero. In the blink of an eye, he is erased from existence. The bloody husk scatters, splashing against the floor before dissolving into embers that drift back to blazing fire. Liu Ya, having witnessed the entire grim spectacle, finally breaks the heavy silence and calls out to his ally. He sinks to the ground, a faint smile touching his lips as he murmurs a quiet thank you. His mind rewinds to the solitary battle against the monster horde. A chilling realization strikes him. If he hadn't taken that risk, he would have been forced to slaughter his own teammates to survive. The silence stretches until blazing fire turns his gaze toward Liu Ya. His expression turns dead serious. He drops a bombshell of a proposal. He wants Liu Ya to join the New Order, and he sweetens the deal with a promise. He offers the top spot within the guild hierarchy. Then, Blazing Fire offers an apology for having to eliminate Wuji moments ago. He acknowledges the bad blood between Liu Ya and the New Order, but in his eyes, securing a powerhouse like Liu Ya is worth burying the hatchet. The rest of the guild stands there, jaws on the floor, stunned by their president's offer. He has never hesitated like this to invite anyone before. On top of that, the terms are unprecedented, totally unheard of for the New Order. One member pipes up, pointing out that every single one of them had to survive a brutal selection process to get in. He can't fathom what makes Liu Ya special enough to skip the line, but Liu Ya just hits back with a question out of left field. What is the price? Blazing Fire blinks, caught off guard. Before he can even form a word, another player interrupts, calling the question ridiculous. To him, a normal person listens to the perks first before worrying about the cost. But Liu Ya shuts that down. When you join a guild, you never look at just the shiny exterior. The only thing that matters is the price tag. The guild president holds Liu Ya's gaze, confidence radiating from him. He dips his head, a smooth smile playing on his lips. He claims there is zero cost. Liu Ya doesn't buy it for a second. He knows exactly how this works when the bill finally comes due. It is going to be a price he refuses to pay. The true cost is total sacrifice, giving up everything, from hard-earned levels to top-tier gear. The moment the guild demands it, sure, the compensation is fat, but the loss is permanent. Liu Ya frowns, eyes narrowing with suspicion. Entering the uncontrolled zone dungeon isn't just a raid. In his mind, it is a guaranteed massacre. The statement hits hard. Instantly, the president and his members tense up, on high alert. Blazing Fire hesitates, a crack in his composure. He replies nervously, insisting he doesn't believe it will end in slaughter. He claims the odds are minimal. Liu Ya isn't swayed. He retorts that the world is full of promises made with zero guarantees. Blazing Fire falls silent, studying him like a puzzle he can't solve. Liu Ya lays down his terms. He is open to an alliance, but surrendering his gear or de-leveling, that is off the table. Never. Furthermore, once this dungeon is done, he is done playing with them. The guild members bristle, taking it as a slap in the face. They think Liu Ya has no clue how golden this ticket is. We are talking an annual salary of over 2 million. The only trade-off is sacrificing some virtual gear during the operation. In their eyes, Liu Ya is either a complete fool or a raving lunatic. Blazing Fire just sinks onto a concrete slab, letting out a sigh. He admits it is a shame to let such talent walk away, but he knows the world doesn't revolve around the New Order. An alliance is still on the table. Liu Ya flashes a genuine smile, thanking him for respecting the boundary. Watching Blazing Fire's composure return, Liu Ya's mind drifts back to the old days. If he hadn't endured such hell, if he didn't know that gear and levels are the only things keeping you breathing, he might have actually said yes. His power is undeniable now enough that the president of the New Order is personally begging him to join. For anyone else, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. Liu Ya looks down, mulling over the path not taken. A flicker of regret sparks in his chest, but he crushes it instantly, pushing the thought aside. A faint smirk returns. There is no need for apologies. The president didn't want him for his personality, he wanted him for his raw power. As long as he stays alive and keeps climbing the power ladder, the offers will keep coming. Meanwhile, Blazing Fire stares at his chat window, face grim. A message pops up from a player named Baisho, wishing them all luck. The message warns that this first uncontrolled zone dungeon is an anomaly. It is running on 10% of the membrane's total computational power. A moment later, another line appears. The hidden condition for a perfect clear is to face absolute despair. And then, the final chilling note, he confesses that on his last attempt, he failed miserably. It wasn't just a failure to clear the mission, his entire squad was wiped out. Now, he has no idea how long it will take to rebuild his ranks. The guild president grinds his teeth as he reads the grim report. A silent curse echoes in his mind. If the clear conditions truly require a life or death crisis, this operation just became infinitely more dangerous. Slowly, his gaze shifts toward Liu Ya. The initial bribe attempt was a misstep, but Liu Ya's raw power is non-negotiable. He has to keep pressing him. Meanwhile, the chat lights up. Zeno reports movement. The group is pushing into the uncontrolled zone to hunt for the computing power membrane. Bisho confirms that 50% of that power is up for grabs. It is a free-for-all now to see just how much they can claim for themselves. Chino weighs in the Chaos Zone and Danger Zone only hold 10%, hardly worth the effort. Another player agrees. The risk-to-reward ratio is vastly superior in the uncontrolled zone. There, you can snag 10% of the computing power in one go. Elsewhere, you are grinding for a measly 1% per run at the exact same difficulty. The consensus send in the heavy hitters who can actually handle the heat. This intel shifts the president's strategy. He needs a reliable weapon, someone like Strikes. If things go sideways and Liu Ya goes rogue, the president will unleash Strikes to take him out. He prays it doesn't come to that, but they press on regardless. Liu Ya reflects on the situation. Shadowing the New Order team gives him a front row seat to their true capabilities. And so, the assault on the uncontrolled zone dungeons begins. The formation is solid, fresh meat. Van serves as the main tank, backed up by the guild president himself as the support tank. A blindfolded support fighter moves in sync with a damage dealer wielding twin swords with deadly precision. In the shadows, a damage specialist stealthily picks off monsters, proving to be the team's silent anchor. Their coordination is flawless. They tear through a level 50 dungeon in just 4 hours. As they push deeper into the zone, their clear count rises rapidly. By day 4, 12 dungeons have fallen, and finally, Liu Ya hits level 50. Satisfaction washes over him. That milestone unlocks the coveted level 50 rebirth power. The system presents 2 choices, cooldown reset or scan. The first option instantly refreshes all abilities but comes with a hefty 12-hour recharge. The second grants a 1,000 meter radar, revealing resources, living creatures, and hostile players. It drains 100 cognition points to start and 10 per second to maintain, but it has 0 cooldown. Plus, the range expands by 100 meters every 10 levels. Liu Ya secures level 50 on the 3rd day of the expedition. Fast forward to day 6, the team finally locates the president's prize. Blazing Fire spots the special dungeon portal, his face lighting up with unconcealed joy. A reinforcement arrives to replace Wuji, relieving the temporary second-tier member who had been filling the gap. Meanwhile, Strikes is tearing through the narrow alleyways of the ruined city. With a massive leap, he launches skyward, sticking the landing on the roof where the team waits at the dungeon entrance. He pauses, surveying the group. At level 56, his mere presence injects a surge of energy into the team. Relief washes over the squad. Strikes flashes a grin, gives a thumbs up, and immediately starts talking trash. "I told you headless chickens not to make a move without me." The smiles drop instantly. Silence hangs in the air until someone snaps back, reminding him the rule applies both ways. Strikes laughs it off, waves to the guild president, and clears his throat to mask the awkwardness. "Nobody told me the plan changed," he claims. Blazing Fire stays silent, shooting him a tired glare, while Liu Ya studies the newcomer intensely. He recognizes Strike's the top 5 player in Met World before the reincarnation. Liu Ya has already crushed a copy of him in the Mirror Realm. But the real deal, he is an unknown variable compared to the simulation. While Liu Ya calculates, Strikes locks onto a specific target. He strides over to the support player and looms over him. "You the one they call Liu Ya?" Strikes asks. The player looks up and simply smiles. The guy was running his mouth, claiming the guild president said Liu Ya, or Shine, as they called him, didn't even measure up to Strikes' pinky toe. Blazing Fire and the squad stiffened, the air suddenly heavy. Liu Ya just scowled. If Strikes wanted to talk about toes, maybe Liu Ya should help him lose a few. The fool better pray he doesn't end up paying for that insult with his life. Blazing Fire stepped in before blood hit the floor, snapping at Strikes to shut his trap and cut the nonsense. Strikes threw up his hands in a mock apology to Liu Ya, claiming his mouth just moved faster than his brain. But hey, he didn't mean any harm. Then he shot a glance at the president, smirking. If Liu Ya really was as strong as his toe, well, that was a compliment, wasn't it? Blazing Fire didn't let him finish. He raised a finger, silencing the room, and ordered the squad to haul Strikes into the dungeon immediately. The team didn't hesitate. They grabbed Strikes and dragged him toward the portal, jeering that a big shot like him should take point and back up all that trash talk. Strikes squirmed and protested, yelling that he wasn't some grunt to be shoved around like that. Watching them disappear, Blazing Fire let out a long, weary sigh, questioning his own sanity for letting a loose cannon like that into the guild. Alone with Liu Ya now, he shifted his focus back to the swirling vortex. This was it, the entrance to the infamous special dungeon of the uncontrolled zone. He took a steadying breath, forcing down the rising adrenaline, and turned to face Liu Ya. He dropped the bombshell. This dungeon wasn't just a side quest. It was the New Order's true objective in the region. No matter how the raid went down, the guild would owe Liu Ya a massive debt. The admission caught Liu Ya off guard, spiking his curiosity. Just what in the hell was the guild president hunting for inside this nightmare? Blazing Fire stared into the abyss, radiating pure confidence. After a beat, he stepped forward, signaling Liu Ya to fall in. Before crossing the threshold, Liu Ya paused to reflect. In his past life, he'd never even breathed the same air as the leader of the New Order, let alone spoken to him. Back then, as a bottom-tier scrub, all he had were the rumors. Dark whispers of a ruthless tyrant who treated human lives like disposable pawns. But after running with him for a few days, Liu Ya was starting to see the man was far more complex than the story suggested. For a split second, he entertained the idea of friendship, then crushed the thought immediately. Real bonds are forged in shared interests, not the fleeting high of a successful raid. Deep down, he knew the truth. If he ever clashed with the New Order, sentimentality would get him killed. The only person in this world he could truly trust was his sister. If push came to shove, he'd brand the guild his enemy and burn everything down to survive. Stealing his resolve, he stepped into the light. Instantly, reality warped around him. The world that materialized wasn't the present. It was an echo, a memory etched into the dungeon itself. Two shadowy figures watched the tank with grim satisfaction. Something writhed inside the incubation fluid. The birth was a success. The scientists extracted the specimen, locking it in isolation to track its rapid evolution. One researcher couldn't hide his glee, rambling about the triumph of their technology. The director, smug with progress, demanded an update on the brainwashing protocols. The answer wiped the smile off his face. Every method they tried didn't break the beast, it just pissed it off. Suddenly, the creature blurred into motion. Before anyone could blink, it shattered the reinforced glass and lunged straight for the director's throat. Amidst the shards of broken glass, a terrifying reflection stared back. Chaos erupted. A dying scientist dragged himself across the floor, leaving a trail of blood as he clawed toward the control console. Gasping his last breath, he screamed for them to seal the exits. The director, eyes wide with terror, made the call. He scrambled up, roaring that the subject had to be terminated immediately. His fist slammed onto the big red button. Snap. The vision dissolved, dumping Liu Ya and the team back into the cold reality of the dungeon. They were standing on a desolate peak, looming over the entrance to the abandoned institute. The team froze, scanning the perimeter. Liu Ya knew this setup, a narrative dungeon, complete with cinematic cutscenes woven into the raid. Blazing Fire wasted no time, pulling up the system interface to brief them on the mission parameters. The screen flashed red, mission generated, teleportation disabled. There was no way out now. Mission experiment gone wrong. Objective transport, the screaming serpent's life source to membrane 304, deep within the Institute's ancient organism core. But the system had added a cruel twist. The life source was bound to their inventory. If they lost the item, they lost their lives. Drop that bottle, and you die instantly. Within seconds, a fragile vial materializes in every player's hand. Blazing Fire scans the team, confirming that everyone has successfully received the life source. The mission is simple but brutal: reach the destination alive, ideally without a single casualty. With a steadying breath, the guild leader signals the advance. Liu Ya grips his vial tight, scrutinizing every inch of it. This is new territory. He has only ever seen cinematic cutscenes in 2 dungeons before, one being that special mission with Wei. The team moves out, completely oblivious to the danger looming overhead. High above, a silent shadow stalks their every step. Suddenly, a deafening shriek rips through the silence. A colossal serpent bursts onto the scene, its roar shaking the entire mountain range. The players whip around in panic, ice-cold dread washing over them as they stare down the beast. Blazing Fire reacts instantly, shouting orders to organize the chaos and get everyone into combat formation. But they are too slow. The serpent unleashes a second scream, this time blasting them with a devastating sonic shockwave. The impact is catastrophic. Players drop to their knees, clutching their bleeding ears in agony, and in their pain, they let go of the bottles. The second those glass vials shatter against the earth, the players' bodies dissolve into nothingness. The system chimes with a grim notification: 3 team members are dead. Staring at the broken shards scattered on the ground, his gaze hardens. That is 3 bottles lost forever. A notification flashes before Liu Ya, alerting him to a new condition imposed on his status. While watching the beast, he spots movement. Strikes is already charging. The warrior is hell-bent on taking that serpent down solo. Throwing all caution to the wind, he rushes in, leaving the rest of the team shouting in panic at his recklessness. They just lost 3 people. Nobody wants to see a 4th die. But Strikes does not hesitate. He launches himself at the monster with blinding speed. His intent is crystal clear, pure vengeance for his fallen comrades. The impact is massive, but nothing. To his horror, the blade does not even scratch the serpent's hide. Before he can even blink, the creature unhinges its massive jaw and swallows him whole in one terrifyingly smooth motion. The rest of the squad watches in stunned silence, though some deep down knew this was coming. Others are just paralyzed by how fast they lost another man. Bored with the survivors, the serpent turns and slithers away. As it vanishes into the forest, something peculiar catches the guild president's eye. The liquid from the dead players' bottles is magically redistributing into the surviving vials. He instantly grasps the mechanic. A perfect clear does not require everyone to survive. It just requires all 10 parts of the life source to reach the destination. Meanwhile, the chatter among the team is still focused on Strikes. Is he dead? They check the roster, and there it is. His name is still active. That means he is alive inside that thing. There might still be a way to save him. As the team starts debating strategies to fight the beast, the guild president ruthlessly shuts it down. He is confident that if Strikes has survived this long, the warrior can find his own way out. The priority has not changed. Get to the research institute and finish the mission now. Liu Ya narrows his eyes. The president's cold logic confirms that he is gunning for a perfect run. It brings back the memory of when he earned 1% computing power for his own flawless performance. Is Blazing Fire chasing that same reward? With no time to argue, the group presses on. They hustle toward the institute, maintaining a brutal pace. 20 minutes later, nearing the target, a player glances at the map. He freezes. Strikes is moving, and he is moving fast, way too fast. At first, they think he is sprinting to catch up, but the realization hits them like a truck. That is not Strike's running. That is the monster that ate him coming back for seconds. The warning comes too late. Rustling in the nearby bushes catches a player's eye. He yells a warning, and blazing fire spins around just as the screaming serpent explodes from the vegetation. Jaws wide open. It lunges for the kill. Reacting on pure instinct, he activates Blood Shadow. He evades the bite by a hair's breadth, repositioning instantly to scan the battlefield. Combat stances now. He roars at the team. Simultaneously, he commands Strikes to attack from the inside if he is still breathing. The serpent, sensing the chaos, locks its deadly gaze back onto the players. Realizing they cannot survive alone, the players rally together and launch a synchronized, all-out assault on the serpent. They close the distance, raining a storm of skills and strikes upon the beast, but terror quickly sets in. It is like hitting a diamond wall. The attacks bounce harmlessly off its impenetrable scales, leaving the monster completely unscathed. The massive serpent whips its tail with bone-crushing force, sending players flying like ragdolls before they smash into the earth. Recovery is instantaneous as health bars refill, and seizing the opening, a fighter lashes out, his whip cracking violently against the beast's face. He triggers a taunt skill, darting left and right to keep the monster's lethal gaze fixed solely on him. Committing to the bait, he bolts away from the main group, blazing past the guild president who stands ready, waiting for the perfect split second to engage. The serpent recoils and unleashes a sonic scream so powerful the shockwaves visibly ripple across the battlefield. One player isn't fast enough. His lifeline vial shatters instantly, and within a heartbeat. His physical form begins to dissolve into nothingness. Pure terror floods his eyes as he realizes it's over. His teammates scream his name in vain, but fate has already snapped shut. Blazing Fire and Liu Ya stare silently at the empty space where their comrade stood moments ago, the weight of the casualty hanging heavy in the air. Another member, trembling with shock, rushes over with a grim status report. The teammate swallowed by the serpent sends a frantic message the beast's insides are armored like steel, rendering internal attacks useless. Blazing Fire locks eyes with the Colossus again, noticing a disturbing detail at close range. Its physiology isn't reptilian, it's insectoid. That explains the impossible durability, and Liu Ya immediately grasps the true nightmare of this raid mechanics. Since the life vials can't be stashed in inventory, the serpent's sonic blasts are specifically targeting them for destruction. Every single roar is a potential execution command, and the pressure spikes to suffocating levels. The terrifying reality sinks in that the entire raid party could be wiped out right here at the entrance, bringing a heavy, dread-filled silence. Suddenly, the screaming serpent shifts. Instead of attacking, it abruptly pivots and slithers into the dense forest, leaving the baffled players in its wake. Why retreat now when it had the advantage? With 2 kills down and the rest vulnerable, while they scramble for answers, they spot a strange phenomenon. The essence from the shattered vials has automatically transferred into the survivors' flasks. The liquid glows with the more intense brilliance, and Blazing Fire processes the data, a theory rapidly forming in his mind. This isn't random aggression, it is a mechanic test, and if the president wants a perfect clear, Liu Ya wonders just how ruthless they'll have to be to get it. Brute force is a trap. Killing the serpent isn't the solution. The true goal is likely consolidating the life essence, so Blazing Fire snaps orders for the team to maintain high alert. With the beast gone, the path to the research institute is open, so they waste 0 time and move out. 20 minutes of hard marching brings them to a colossal structure, its outer wall breached by a massive hole where something big broke out. A scout checks the mini-map and flashes a warning to the president that the serpent is lurking close by, forcing Blazing Fire to calculate the odds instantly. To buy them a window of opportunity, he makes a ruthless call, ordering a subordinate to shatter their own life vial. The chosen player freezes, stunned by the suicide command, while another teammate jumps in, screaming that they can't afford more casualties. But Blazing Fire is made of stone, insisting that dragging this many players along makes defeating the creature impossible. Speed is their only asset now, not numbers, and they need a sacrifice to lure the serpent away so the core team can breach the institute. Forced into a corner, the player grits his teeth and smashes the bottle against the ground. A system notification chimes for another fallen ally, and the moment the glass breaks, the screaming serpent whips around, drawn to the death like a shark to blood. The cold-blooded gambit worked. The monster is taking the bait. Relief washes over the remaining group as they press on, with one player calling the plan genius and another insisting they owe the captain their lives. Because of that sacrifice, they can now track the boss's aggro patterns, and Blazing Fire glances at the map, his theory confirmed. Meanwhile, Liu Ya's mind is racing, remembering how he refused to wail on gear or levels before this. But now the dynamic has shifted. If Blazing Fire has cracked the code for a perfect clear, Liu Ya realizes he might be the next sacrifice once they are inside. In those confined corridors, getting surrounded would be inevitable. So Blazing Fire barks at them to double time it as the Institute entrance looms ahead. The squad sprints across the open clearing, closing the distance to the structure. They hit the stairs and rush for the doors, but Liu Ya skids to a halt, realizing he can't walk into that trap because if he goes inside, he is cornered. The rest of the team notices the gap and pauses at the landing. Looking back, confused by his hesitation, Liu Ya doesn't flinch. Locking eyes with Blazing Fire to drop a loaded question, what is the absolute fastest way to clear this mission? The air turns electric, and no one speaks, but hands drift toward weapons as everyone braces for a betrayal. The president frowns, stepping to the edge of the stairs, his voice grave as he tells Liu Ya he has got it all wrong. This dungeon's difficulty is off the charts. He explains, I am not looking to kill you. I just want to survive and finish the raid. But if you don't trust me, Blazing Fire adds coldly, then wait out here, and the three of us will handle the rest. The Institute looms ahead, shrouding unknown horrors within, but the colossal serpent coiling outside poses a far deadlier threat. Liu Ya stands stone still, calculating the odds. A player barks at him, demanding to know why he is stalling. Why the hell does he not trust the guild president? To them, his suspicion is a bad joke. Another chimes in, reminding him they have been running raids together for ages. No reason to doubt him now. They insist. What did Liu Ya expect brotherhood and warm fuzzies from the boss? Liu Ya ignores the noise, eyes narrowing with intensity. He steals a covert glance at his mini-map. By his math, the heavy hitter strikes will touch down in about 10 minutes. The Serpent's aggro cycle is every 20, meaning the next wave hits in 13. The window's closing fast. If he's going to make a move, he has to drop the hammer before the president links up with strikes. Blazing Fire turns toward the dark entrance, a calm, practiced smile on his face. No one is forcing your hand. He lies smoothly. We just need to clear the mission. With that, he steps into the shadows of the Institute. The remaining players sneer at Liu Ya, their patience snapping. Traitor, they spit, branding him a coward for flaking at the critical moment. Fine, we go on without you. As they turn, Liu Ya's grip tightens on his katana. He runs the numbers. Freeze status 10 seconds. The blessing 60 seconds. Counting the incoming strikes, that is 4 high-level combatants. But if he chains the freeze with the blessing, he might just wipe the board. One slip up, and he burns his bridge with the New Order Guild forever. Hesitate, and he is dead anyway. Blazing Fire senses the shift in the air, stopping in his tracks to glare back with a frown. The lackeys scoff at Liu Ya's stance with utter contempt. You think you can take us? Forget the alliance. You are a walking corpse, one sneers. We will not even dirty our hands killing you. That seals it. The answer is clear. Without another second of doubt, Liu Ya triggers his ultimate combo freeze status and blessing be engaged. Power surges through his veins, speed and strength skyrocket. In a blur of motion, he launches himself straight at the guild president, who instantly triggers a counter skill. Blazing Fire's body dissolves into thin air right before the blade lands. The other players scream, stunned by the sudden betrayal. Are you insane? They howl. You just signed your death warrant. You won't last a minute. Too slow. Liu Ya pivots, his katana singing through the air. A clean slash bisects the nearest player before he can even blink. The body hits the floor with a wet thud. Impossible. The victim gasps, fading into pixels. The system pings teammate eliminated. Another player roars, charging in with a frantic zigzag pattern to throw off Liu Ya's aim, but the swordsman just watches, cold and patient. Knuckles white on the hilt, Liu Ya lunges a single, surgical strike, down he goes. The system chimes again, another ally dead. Liu Ya flicks his eyes to the map. Blazing Fire has not moved from his spot, but on the edge of the radar strikes is closing in fast. Desperate, Liu Ya channels every ounce of mana into a devastating attack, blasting the building's flank. Concrete and steel rain down like shrapnel. Dust settles. He scans the area and checks the president's health bar. 100%. Damn it. Despite the destruction, he missed completely. He checks the map again. The dot is still there, but blazing fire is ghosting him in the rubble. What kind of stealth skill is this? Panic rises, Strikes is practically on top of them. The system blares a warning, freeze status deactivated. Staring at the debris, Liu Ya screams into the void. Come out, blazing fire. Hiding like a rat, is the great guild president too scared to fight me face to face? Silence. Blazing fire refuses to reveal himself. The clock ticks down. System alert, blessing expired. He is out of buffs. Liu Ya curses under his breath. If the bastard wants to play hide and seek, fine. Let him rot in the shadows. But time is up. A figure steps into the clearing. Strikes has arrived. Liu Ya sees the blip merge on the map. Blazing fire had moved toward his ally all along. He shimmers back into existence right next to his reinforcement, a cruel smirk twisting his face. Brave, he mocks, oozing sarcasm. Stupid, but brave. Too bad you blew your load fighting those man-eating leopards earlier. You showed me your entire hand. Blazing fire gloats. And for what, 2 dead pawns? Liu Ya does not waste breath on words. He just glares. Strike slowly unsheathes his massive sword. No hesitation this time. The guild president and his elite enforcer launch their assault simultaneously, 2 against 1, and that is where we leave it. What a cliffhanger. If you are dying to see how Liu Ya survives this impossible fight, smash that subscribe button and hit like. Catch you in the next episode.